Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, and welcome to the second part of the Shenmue Dojo show special editions, looking at the artworks that James and I managed to acquire a few months back. As ever, I have Mr. 79% himself, James Brown, with me. How you doing?
I didn't get that reference, Matt, actually, but I'm doing all right, thank you. Yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah,
Apart from being a little bit bunged up. I don't know if anyone could tell.
No, you sound better than you did the other day when we were talking.
Yeah, true. We did some drop-ins for the show, and hopefully when that show comes out, it'd be quite seamless, hopefully. You might not notice. But yeah, I was quite bunged up. I don't know what I picked up. Something gave me like some weird shivers the other night for like 20 minutes. I was just shivering for 20 minutes, which wasn't good. But I feel all right now.
That's not what you want, is it? But guys, you're feeling a lot better. To help us going through the artworks tonight, we're going through the Shenmue NPC artworks, and there's a shed load of them. We have resident Shenmue expert, Sega Human Encyclopedia, Stuart, or Miles Prower. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, what an introduction. Thank you very much, and cheers for having me again.
No, you're
Mr. 99% there. With his knowledge, for sure.
So, what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to go through the artwork section with the NPCs. There are quite a few of them to go through, and what we're going to also be doing is leaning into Stu's knowledge from the Shenmue database, the character database he's put together as well as he's put some notes together for Shenmue 1 and 2 characters that appear in these artworks with some extra sort of nitty-gritty information that's probably a little bit sort of left field, so shall we say, not commonly known, but stuff I think adds a lot of context to these characters, where they've turned up, where they might turn up, whether they even turned up in any games at all. This is exactly why we've got Stu on board, because he is the font of all knowledge when it comes to this stuff, because I don't remember any of it.
Yeah, obscure and left field information's kind of my thing. Yeah. So.
Shenmusings.com.
Yeah,
if you
haven't checked it out, Shenmusings.com. Check that out if you haven't done so already, but we'll plug it again.
Is it .com, Stu, or is it?
It's shenmusings.wordpress.com. Yeah.
There you go.
The link will be in the YouTube description anyway, so make sure you check that out, guys, if you haven't done so already. But before we dive into all of that, we, at the end of the last show, announced we were having a competition to give away one of the actual artworks that were won in the auction. All you had to do was leave a comment in the YouTube comments below the video that we put together, and we are going to draw one at random right now. So James is showing off the Shenhua artwork that we have said we're going to give away. So this is your opportunity to own one of these. So what we've done is put everything into a wheel of names to keep it nice and fair, and we're going to draw it right now. So here we go.
Ooh.
Is it working, Matt?
We've got a winner, and the winner is Mr. Starwalker. So if you can reach out to us over on Twitter or via email or some form of the social media platforms that we've got, and we'll arrange shipping for your genuine Shenmue auction artwork from the development of the original games. That
Congrats.
Is one hell of a prize, so congratulations there.
Congrats, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to be diving in to these artworks in their full glory, and like I say, there's going to be quite a lot of these to go through. James or Stu, any thoughts before we sort of dive into this?
Just looking forward to it, to be honest. There's a lot of, if you recall, like last time we did this artwork type of show, Matt, we were focusing on like what we thought was Shenmue 4 and beyond. So we're taking a step back now. These are characters from Shenmue Chapter 1, Yokosuka, and Shenmue two type of characters, so they cover chapters, I think it is listed as chapters 2 and 3 and that sort of stuff in these documents. So really interesting profiles, some characters that were cut as well that we're going to be looking into. So really interested in seeing how this goes, guys. Yeah. How about yourself, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, ever since this sort of came to light, that this whole artwork collection was just on a Japanese auction website, I've been really excited. Like especially since obviously I found out you guys and a few others in the community managed to get hold of it through a joint effort, and yeah, just want to extend my appreciation and thanks on behalf of well, all Shenmue fans really, that you guys were able to acquire them and go through the painstaking effort of scanning every single one of them and putting them on the website. Yeah, it's just really brilliant. And yeah, I was looking forward to sort of sinking my teeth into these and having a good look through them before they were released. And yeah, just love sort of analysing this kind of stuff and going tumbling right down very, very deep rabbit holes, which I've very much done in the notes I've prepared for this.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Brilliant. Before we dive in, just for anybody who's not come across this before, everything is in the YouTube description below. So that's the links to the website, the links to the direct download link for all the artworks as well. So everybody can download them, have copies of them on their computers or whatever. Probably completely devalues the actual artworks that we have in our hands, but you know.
These ones, Matt. Some lovely stuff in here.
Beautiful.
And that's the kind of stuff that we're going to be delving into right now. And yeah, we do this for you guys. Did this for you, Stu. Typically you. Yeah.
Right, so let's get things underway. Let's dive straight in then. So we are doing NPC artwork and renders. So we're going to be starting from the top, chapter 1 characters. And we're going to start with Toshihiko Hiba with a character supplementary order sheet, which we have scanned in. And James and I will sort of read out the description, some little bits and pieces in, and then we're going to ask Stu for his insight on these as well, because I'm sure there's loads of insight here that isn't captured within the character order sheet itself. So I'll start with the description. So this is VFRPG character order sheet, supplementary order sheet, dated July 24th, 1996, which again, I always find that insane. 1990 bloody 6.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty much a Virtua Fighter RPG character into it. And you know, Matt, when we went through those area renders that we got from the Hideki Kawabata lot, this character pretty much goes with those renders, doesn't it? And you can see how early those shots were. You know, we're talking pre-Dreamcast graphics when it was pretty much intended to be on the Sega Saturn. This is a character from that era, and which is pretty insane.
Yeah. So it's this insight into. Yeah, and bearing in mind that there's a lot of documents here, but it feels like it's a very small insight to a massive development cycle that is just one very small piece to a puzzle that hopefully one day we can get more and more complete.
It is true, Matt, because when you think about how many characters are actually in Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2, what we've actually got here is probably like 1% of all that. So how many of these folders have they actually had back in the day? And if each member of staff had access to their own portfolio as well, or you know, they must have been printing stuff out left, right and centre. And where are all these documents now? I know we've got these ones sat with us here, but where are all the rest?
Wow,
have they just been destroyed? And these are like the last remnants of whatever that development cycle would have been like. I don't know.
It's sad to say, but I think most may have been, unfortunately. But this is why it was so important we got hold of these things when we did. Yeah. But let's dive in anyway. So we, as I said, dated July 24th, 1996. Original concept was from Makoto Nagaya. The requester is Nobukatsu Hironoya, and the creator is Aigo Kashihara. And it's for Chapter 1 location, Yokosuka Dobuita Street. Character name, Toshihiko Hiba, and it's number 07. And I'll hand to James.
Yeah, interesting. So we've got some supplementary information here. So Hiba's expression at the Yokohama Gymnasium is too serious, apparently. In the brackets, it says dull-witted, which I'm not quite sure what expression that is, but very serious, apparently. Feedback from many people was, With that face, it's hard to imagine him pulling off a sneaky, illegal move. Please adjust his expression to appear more malicious. Previously, Heba was only set to appear in the martial arts tournament scene, but now he will also appear at the Game Arcade on Debuta Street. So please also add a Heba in student uniform version. Notes: please proceed with the above two additions and changes. And then the submission confirmation section was the 7th. What's that? Is that July?
July
24th of July.
Yeah.
And then these various team member stamps at the bottom. So this is, if you recall last time we were talking about it, we've got character profile sheets that are essentially like the ordering of a character. And then there's also these character supplementary order sheets. So there must be a character order sheet that obviously we don't have that describes the character, and then they've sort of rethought a little bit and they want to sort of tweak that character a little bit and I guess make him, I don't know, more expressive.
Sounds like it.
Like, if you remember actually, that little comment there about the feedback from many people was, with that face, it's hard to imagine him pulling off a sneaky illegal move. It makes me think of the first episode of the anime where that guy, he's being quite sneaky into that Rio fights. Could that be potentially this character? I'm not sure. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, it could be a way they could have. Because I remember thinking they had access to all of this material, the anime team. So it isn't beyond the realms of possibility that it could have been a play on this character that they've sort of gone and taken and made their own version of, I guess. I mean, Stu, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking that, if maybe the original plan was for this character to be defeated by Ryo in the tournament, like that guy is in the anime. Obviously, the guy in the anime looks quite a lot different, but as you say, we know that they had access to like certain materials, which obviously included a lot of the scrapped tournament stuff. So yeah, I mean, it might have even played out exactly the same way. It might have been that Ryo defeated this guy with just like one move, and that was that. Just interesting as well that originally he was only going to be in the tournament, but then they've said, oh, now he's going to be in the arcade. So can you make like a student uniform for him as well? But obviously, I guess when the tournament bit was scrapped, they just scrapped this guy altogether.
Does make sense.
Isn't it?
Does make sense. If they scrap the tournament, they scrap the sort of characters around it. So that's sort of, I guess, an overview of the character himself. And then you've got a design sheet. Sort of, this is the next bit we're looking at on the screen. And it said the description is a character design sheet for Toshihiko Heba with two expressions. The left has a neutral smile, has a large cross through it, which would suggest to me that they didn't like it very much.
That was the expressionless one, was it?
Yeah, it could well be. While the right one has a swirl indicating OK above it, and shows a sharper, more intense look with a smirk. He's got like a much more of a sneaky look there for sure.
He does, doesn't he? Like, it's very subtle. Like, it does take you a little bit comparing the two to actually realise what's going on there. But now that you've read the supplementary sheet and then seeing this description here, you can sort of see he looks a little bit more fierce in his facial expression.
Yeah, he definitely does. And then there's some text here, like in terms, I guess, directions to sort of change the character a bit more. So tuck in the chin a little is one of them. This side, arrow to the right hand of the image. And then use this one during the match, arrow to the right hand image. So it looks like they've it's gone through a sort of progressive design change, and then looks like they're working on it some more, certainly from that design image itself. Then we've got another character design sheet just below it, and this is a sort of 3-view version of it. So a 3-view character design sheet for Toshihiko Heba, showing a male character with a square haircut and a mischievous grin. The character is depicted from front, side and back for detailed reference. You've got text on it that says A, X, which might be indicating a rejected version. And then you've got some text beneath the one on the left-hand side, which is saying when walking along the road, arrow pointing up to the first image. His design, again, looks slightly different in the face. doesn't it?
It does a little bit. He's giving me like Inoki vibes, actually, from that sort of smirky shot there.
Yeah.
Stu, what do you think?
It sort of looks like they kind of made him slightly more rounded and maybe a bit less square and blocky. It's sort of interesting you say about Inoki, James, because I hadn't thought of this, but I'm wondering if maybe they sort of took this guy's face and maybe sort of used it, might have partly inspired Inoki's design.
Possibly, because of the school uniform reference as well.
It does
like that black typical,
It does lend itself to that, doesn't it? So you can see the thought trail. It'd be interesting if we ever get any more of these, whether that you can see like that evolution, it does end up going that way. That'd be quite cool to hopefully prove that theory. Then below that, again, you've got a character illustration at the front with a martial arts uniform. I like these sketches. I always do these color sketches that look really cool.
Yeah, cool.
I won't read the description out there because it's pretty self-explanatory. But then the text says Toshihiko Hiba. Is it Kyokumikan on his gi, representing his martial arts dojo or school? So that again, like when you think of like Ryo's training gi or Welsh training gi, it's got the Hazuki name on it. Very similar there. Then you've got a design of the back of him, pretty self-explanatory. Then you've got what I find quite interesting. They rendered him up, and I would argue he looks less threatening in these renders. Actually,
it's true.
Yeah,
I mean, when we first saw this map, we thought it was Fukusan, didn't we?
We did, didn't we? Yeah. But then obviously it's been translated through, and then it actually works out that it's the render from the sketches we've got there. So you've got a 3D model sheet of him in a white karate gi and a black belt with various angles and expressions there. Then below that you've got a head 3D render, so various expressions on that one again. Still doesn't quite look for me like the sketches do that we looked at a few minutes ago.
Fierce.
Certainly not as sort of threatening, I'd probably say.
Yeah, I think if I saw just the 3D model, like without any context and without the name alongside it, I think I would have just assumed that was an early Fukusan.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And then coming down, he's in his karate gear again, but you've then got a render of him in the arcade 3D render. Again, concept art 1 made by MDA Takahashi Ito. So we know that name very well now through this. Then further down, you've got him in attack stance. Looks like outside some sort of training dojo potentially.
Under mountains in the background, aren't there?
Yeah, it looks quite like Guilini in the background.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but obviously not because he's meant to appear in Yokosuka, but interesting.
And then you've got him training in the dojo under like a sunset, which I thought it's a really cool shot, I think.
Yeah, that looks like a beach outside, but yeah, it's a really cool shot, isn't it? How just the rays of the light are coming into the dojo area.
And Stu, your thoughts on this in a second, but I look at that now, and if any of you have played Yakuza 3, and obviously the orphanage is set on the sort of towards the beach, that gives me Yakuza 3 vibes a little bit. I don't know what your thoughts are, Stu.
Okinawa.
I must admit I've not played 3, but I have played 6. That is the same orphanage, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's near the beach. I hadn't thought of that, but now that you mention it, yeah, it does look very similar sort of vibe. It's
You're trying to say it's influenced Yakuza, Matt?
I'm saying that Yakuza has been robbing Shenmue since 2003.
Since 96.
I'm joking. I love the Yakuza games. I'm just having fun. And that's all of his renders all the way through that we've got here. So any sort of final thoughts on this particular character? Obviously, we know he was cut or binned off somewhere. Obviously, we talked about Inoki. Potentially, that's where that design went. But any final thoughts from either of you on this one?
Not really from me. I mean, maybe if we ever did get a Shenmue Zero, this guy could pop up and give us a little bit more of a backstory to, Ryo training at the martial arts tournament or whatever, and obviously his time with his father. Maybe this guy's a bit more of a major character within that sort of story, sort of like it was in the anime where there was this martial arts sort of, for want of a better expression, dickhead. Ryo had to One Punch Man take him down. But if that had any sort of relevance to this guy, would be interesting to see what those original intentions were. It's nice having these breadcrumbs, but then it just sort of gives you more questions than answers, doesn't it, in this sort of case?
Yeah.
But I like it.
Yeah, I haven't really got much more to add, really. It's just fascinating because obviously I think we knew about this sort of whole scrapped karate tournament scene from like way back when. I feel like Yu Suzuki mentioned this in an interview, probably going back like 20 odd years ago. I feel like, and obviously we didn't know anything more about it than that. And then fast forward to now, where we've got renders of the where the tournament was. We've got renders of characters that were meant to be. Like we're coming on to the referee as well in a minute, I think. And then obviously it was in the anime as well. Like it's just insane that, like you say, James, just little breadcrumbs of what it was. Whereas before we just didn't know anything else about it. I hadn't seen anything else about it. So yeah, it's just great to see this stuff.
Superb. And that leads us straight in then, Stu. You've mentioned it. You are correct. We are now diving into the referee. So we've got a character illustration of what we think is the tournament referee. So in his blue shirt with his red tie and his whistle very much wrapped around his neck there. Again, it's one of these sketches, these colour sketches that I have a real fondness for. And there's loads of these within this sort of artwork pack. And it says a character illustration of a man with a stocky build wearing a dark blue shirt, red tie, blue trousers, and a whistle around his neck. He is barefoot and stands firmly with his clenched fists. And the text says referee, and then height 177 centimeters. Coming down, you've then got a referee basic render, the 3D render of the referee. So actually, that sketch has then come to life. This, for me, and again, I'll get some views on this, looks a little bit more Dreamcasty in the presentation of the model. Just my view. I reckon I saw nodding from both of you there, so I guess you're both in agreement.
Yeah, I feel like that face it looks a bit too detailed for the Saturn. I mean, I know the Shenmue Saturn stuff we have seen look quite impressive, but yeah, that just looks more. Yeah, it looks more sophisticated. It looks more Dreamcasty.
Yeah, for sure. There, James. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, until you mentioned that, Matt, I would have assumed, we were still in the Sega Saturn era. But you're right. I mean, it does look quite nicely detailed for what one would assume would be like one of the side characters, the one that would get a lower polygon sort of rate attached to it. But yeah, who knows? It's I think back to, was it the sort of the transition between the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast? There was like an issue of the Sega Saturn magazine. I think it was a Sega Saturn magazine, and it was like sort of hyping up the Dreamcast, and you had that sort of, I think it might have been Mr. Yukawa's head, and they were like showing it off in different lights and stuff. And it was just this head. Yeah. It was like a twirly head. It's if you do think about that sort of transition period, which would have been maybe 98. I mean, it could have been captured in 97.
Yeah.
And we're looking at screenshots from 96. I mean, timeline-wise, it could be one of those sort of models that they were testing on the Dreamcast, if that makes sense. Like, just in that sort of in-between the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast graphics. So it...
Project Katana sort of phase.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and then coming down a bit further, referee expressions. Once we've got sort of 3D renders of various expression and expression tests that have been done there. Again, I think it's probably generated around the same sort of time, looking at the detailing on the character itself. Coming down a bit further, then you've got more renders of expressions, sort of going from angry, happy. It looks like some speaking motions in there as well. And then the four on the bottom, they've lightened his skin tone, or certainly changed the lighting on it, I think, to give maybe a little bit more definition of some of the expressions that are going on there. Again, it's very much Dreamcasty era looking at it. And then I guess this is my favourite image, I think, of the tournament referee, is the actual referee in action with his whistle to his mouth. Now, I'm guessing that could be our friend Toshihiko Hiba, potentially in the sort of foreground of that, with the blurring in the martial art uniform.
Like I think so, from the square hair. Yeah.
I mean, be a fair guess there. And James, just a thought looking at this image, looking at the background, does that ring true to the Sega Saturn renders that we saw in terms of the seating arrangement, do you think? Or am I going down a rabbit hole that's not there?
I mean, probably, Matt. I mean, we'd have to pull up a Yokohama Arena picture again, or one of the renders that we are actually seeing to make sure. But yeah, I mean, that's typical martial arts looking arena seating, or what one would expect to see in an arena. You'd have to see if it's got the balcony. In fact, the balcony reminds me of, maybe not. I was thinking of like something that happened in the anime. Was there like a balcony in the distance like that? Don't know. I'd have to rewatch the anime as well.
I'd have to rewatch the anime and have a look at those renders again. But the reason I bring it up is it might date it a little bit, because then if we know that render of the tournament venues from '96, we know that. So imagine if this is from '96 and you look at the quality of the model there. The Saturn's not going to be able to run that natively. Not a chance. Not a chance, without either being boosted or it's an early Project Katana image. I mean, Stu, any thoughts on that?
I think you're probably right. It looks like we were saying, it does look sort of slightly better than Saturn, but it might be that sort of halfway between. It might be an enhanced Saturn, might be with this the expansion cartridge or whatever it was going to be. Sorry, just going back to the anime, one thing that I only thought to check just now while we were talking is whether the referee in the anime actually looks like this guy. So consulted the screenshots of episode 1 on a little website called Shenmue Dojo. You might have heard of it.
Oh yeah.
And he looks sort of similar. The guy in the anime is a lot even stockier. Really, he's got similar hair. He has got the blue suit and the red tie, but he's sort of got different trousers. But I mean, that might just be how referees in Japanese martial arts tournaments dress. Anyway, I don't know, but it's sort of interesting to see that it's at least it seems to be partly resembles this guy.
Excellent. And James, you had your phone out for something.
Yeah, I did pull up that. I mean, obviously, you can probably show it better on the screen, but for example, you can see the blue mat, and then if it was looking at the sideways there, the seating kind of does look familiar. Obviously, the red seats, I think you can see in that previous image we just looked at. And there is like a balcony-looking thing going on there with the fence.
I think that's pretty damn close, actually.
I do. Yeah. Obviously, that was more Sega Saturn quality.
Yeah.
Like this we're looking at here is like one of those high-res CGI artworks that potentially could have been on the Saturn, but not in-game, if you know what I mean. It's like one of those renders, either in a cutscene or, to promote the game or something.
Yeah. And if it was something like that and it transitioned to Katana or the Dreamcast itself, it's not that big a jump in terms of the visual quality of it. So the Dreamcast could do that in engine. We know that from
exactly.
So that's pretty cool. I say it's my favourite one. I won't go into the description of it because it's pretty self-explanatory. But I am going to go down now to high school girl character illustration. And Stu's got some notes on this one as well. So we've got ourselves a high school girl, the colour sketch there, complete with a little coffee stain on the bottom right-hand corner, just for authenticity purposes. The text is that she's in casual clothes. High school girl B. And note, it says B appears to be crossed out and SHA written underneath, matching the model below, which we'll come on to in a minute. But Stu, do you want to give your initial sort of analysis of this one?
Yeah, so it's quite clear that this became Noriko, who we see in Shenmue 1 as one of Ryo's friends, who does indeed go to high school. It's just quite an interesting insight with some of these designs, because a lot of these character designs just seem to be, they're initially sort of quite generic, like they didn't set out to say, oh, this is going to be this character and this character's going to have this name, etc. A lot of them just seem to be, okay, we'll design this and then we'll decide what exactly their role is going to be in the game later for some of them, which is quite interesting.
And then sort of coming down, we've then got like the high school girl 3D render, which is that is Dreamcast era. Looking at that in
Yeah.
terms of the visual quality of that, and again, it's says text SHA underscore L, and then it's I'm not even going to try it. Joshi QC, a Shifuku version in Chapter 1 Yokosuka. High School Girl A in casual clothes for Chapter 1 Yokosuka, made by Takashi Ito. And Stu, in your notes, you've made reference to the model name there.
Yeah, so this actually comes up quite a lot with some of these, but yeah, so this SHA sort of like ID model name, so it actually matches the sort of file ID name of her model in the final version of Shenmue 1. So it's just really interesting to see that, you know, going as way back as far as this, like even in the final released game, like they still use these like ID kind of identification things for these
Yeah,
characters.
it's interesting. So, like for example, High School Girl, whatever. I don't know why they've named it as SHA, SHA.
Yeah, it's like
But
it's
then
backwards, like school high.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Actually, yeah, could be something like that. Yeah, but they never changed it to like Nor for Noriko or whatever. It's 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 just stuck to the original whatever they gave it in the first instance.
Yeah, and again, we'll see this come up quite a lot. Like they'll give them like a really generic sort of ID, and then even in the final game, they still have that generic ID.
Yeah.
I guess it's probably easier for them to keep it that way, and then rather than
Yeah.
fiddling around changing names for everything, because you say you'd lose track of them.
Yeah.
Coming down, you've then got High School Render, Head 3D Render, so quite a detailed head render of the character that obviously ends up as Noriko later on, with the text saying it's High School Girl, Casual Outfit B, face high polygon model for reference, and you can see that's like very high quality model. It's not quite, I mean, I could be wrong, but from a visual, sort of looking at it by my naked eye, but it doesn't quite look like it would be as strong a quality models like the faces render from obviously the passport disc, for example, but it's probably slightly better than it would have been in the in-game itself from a sort of a very quick look at it. But that's just an observation from me more than anything else. I could be completely wrong on that. Body 1200 polygon model for in-game use, and then again created by Takashi Ito. So that's our friendly Noriko, all done and dusted. Next one I'm coming to now. There's quite a lot with this one actually. Stu's gone down a really cool rabbit hole with this particular character. We've got Itoi. Now you will think of him as our friendly guy who's at the Patchy's shop, who talks about years ago being Chinese and all the rest of it. This is him. But actually there's an interesting history to this character model and its journey and where it's ended up within the game. So we'll do the order sheet first, and then we'll bring Stu in on some of the detail here and what he's discovered around this one. So, description is the VF RPG character order sheet. Request date is October 13th, 1997. Original concept was by Kenji Miyawaki. Requester was Hiroyuki Nakagomi, and the creator was Kenji Miyawaki. Chapter 1 Yokosuka. Itoi, Pat Shop owner, is the character name. Number 1-69, and I'll hand to James for the details.
Yeah, which is interesting because we do sort of, it doesn't happen on every single one of these character order sheets, but some of them do have this sort of suffix like 1 and then a number, or 3 and then a number. So it does seem to match up with the chapter that they're in.
Yeah.
So this would suggest this is a chapter 1 character, and it's like number 69 out of the list of characters they've got there. So order details, it says name, again, Itoi, Pat Shop owner, gender male, blood type O, date of birth is October the 13th, 1912, 73 years old at this point. Height/weight is 156 centimeters and 58 kilograms. His clothing is a knit cap, a long sleeve shirt, cotton pants, sneakers. Appearance location is a Pat Shop on Dobuta Street in Yokosuka. Frequency of appearance, he appears only in Yokosuka, apparently. Relationship with Akira, so obviously Rio at this time was called Akira. General acquaintance. Required facial expressions, it says refer to scenario. Required movements, refer to scenario. Personality, refer to scenario. Other non-notes, patch shop owner. And then we've got signatures and stamps at the bottom again.
So it's quite a substantial character order sheet here with a lot of detail. So this, when you think of like the passport and obviously now preserved through Suka Pass, this is the sort of level of detail we get with a lot of the characters in Shenmue 1. And I know Stu has painstakingly put these together for Shenmue 2 in his character database, for example. But there's some interesting, I guess, quirks with this particular character and model. I mean, Stu, do you want to come in on some of the things that you found in your research for this?
Yeah, so I'll come on to his appearance in a minute. Once we've sort of gone over the art and the render. But just one thing to note, and this comes up quite a lot with these order sheets. So yeah, basically his blood type and his measurements are exactly the same as his like final Shenmue 1 profile, from the passport and now on Suka Pass. But yeah, for whatever reason they changed his birthday, and this basically happens for like pretty much every character that you see on here for whatever reason, and it's a bit all over the place, but basically, so yeah, as it says here, it was October 13th 1912, then for whatever reason they changed it to February 26th 1913, but his age is still given as 73 in both profiles. There's a whole thing with the birth dates and the ages. Some of the ages seem to suggest that like the present day is like 1986. Some of them as if it's like 1985. It's all over the place basically. I sort of gave up trying to make much sense of it.
Seemed like, I suppose they were just chopping and changing the dates and times until probably a week before release. Probably when you got them finalized. And
just to before we sort of look at his appearance as well, just another thing to note, so like Noriko, he's got the same ID, model ID here as he has in the final Shenmue 1's files, which is WAP, which I believe comes from Wappin, which is Japanese for patch, because I think he actually says that in a conversation in the game.
That's where that rings a bell. He says something like, the Japanese word is wapping.
Yeah, that's it. So basically a lot of these IDs match, and I should mention, sorry, that I found there's basically a list of all these character IDs on the Wulanshu wiki website, which is where I checked these. But yeah, I'll come on to the sort of weirdness with his appearance and character model once we've looked at these artworks and renders.
Let's dive down into the artwork sense. There you go. For Itoi, you've got a character illustration, again, one of these lovely sketches, and you can see the WAP model number is on there. And again, you've got him pretty much when you think of him in the Dreamcast game itself, the final game itself, pretty much looks as he would do. It says the text "Old Man Skeleton," which makes me laugh a little bit.
Nice.
And then it says "Patch Shop Toy." Coming down, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, and this is where the rabbit hole that Stu's gone down gets really interesting here. So you've got a toy 3D model render. So you've got a 3D model render of a toy, the patch shop owner, showing multiple angles and including sort of a detailed close-up with his aged face. The text says WAP, a toy patch shop owner. Face is a high polygon model for reference. Body is a 1200 polygon model for in-game use, so similar to the previous one we talked about, and created by Takashi Ito. Again, Stu, I found this really, really interesting in terms of this particular model and where it was and ended up within the game. Take us down this rabbit hole.
Okay, so yeah, you might notice this render of the model. The model looks quite a lot different than he does in the final version of Shenmue 1. They basically completely changed his face. He looks sort of a bit friendlier. The face just looks a bit softer, really, and he's got a bit more facial hair going on. But yeah, we have seen this early model before, so we've actually seen it in the Watch Shenmue demo. So if you go to the shop in Watch Shenmue, Itoi-san is using this model specifically. They hadn't changed it to the one in the final game yet. So yeah, it's really interesting to see that. And there's another character as well where it's quite a similar situation. But yeah, it's really interesting that one of these early models made it as far as what's Shenmue before they obviously changed it completely. But the quite interesting thing is that this head and facial design didn't go completely to waste, because they basically gave this head to a completely different character in Shenmue 1. So in the harbour, you see this forklift driver driving around. His name's Hiroshi Sugiyama, and yeah, he's basically got old Itoi-san's face.
But, it's like Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah,
Off it oven.
It's
on a different guy.
It's a little bit rude though, because obviously Itoi-san is sort of his age is said as 73.
73
here. However, I'm just going to quickly double check this. So Hiroshi, the forklift driver who ended up with this face, he's only 40. But,
to be fair, it's not a very old-looking face, is it?
No, which is maybe
when you
why
see it
they
on the
changed
forklift
it.
guy, it doesn't look that old anyway.
No, I just found that quite funny.
Yeah.
They look
So
like
he's de-aged
they
by
aged
33 years.
Yeah. It does look like as well. Again, I'm just looking at your notes, Stu. That they've made some sort of visual tweaks to that face model as well to maybe make it look less old on the
That's
final
true.
model in game.
I know what
Oh,
you mean,
possibly, yeah.
But yeah, so that's cool. Anyway, so as Stu has said, there's a few of these characters dotted around that have made appearances before and they've ended up elsewhere, having their faces swapped and playing sort of double personalities, for want of a better expression. James, any final thoughts on this one?
No, not for me, Matt. Just interesting Stu's research there, and hopefully you bang up some screenshots of this so people can see what people are, what we're talking about. Is sort of multiple use face, which is it's quite cool. So
then, moving on, then we've got our hamburger shop employee character illustration. Now, everybody will know the Funny Bear Burger. Everybody will know that from Debuita Street. And this is pretty clear as day, and I don't think the sketch looks too different from the final model itself.
No.
Then you've got the description, which is essentially what I've just gone through and said. The text says hamburger shop employee, so they haven't named him here yet, which is interesting. Coming down, you've then got the 3D render, the 3D model render. So again, there's a very similar theme to a lot of these. You get a sketch, you get a render, and in some cases you get the order sheet as well. But here you've got the 3D render. And again, it says Burger Shop Employee with the model name BUR, which I'm guessing, Stu's the same as in the final product.
It is indeed, yeah, it matches.
So there we are. So that's his exact model number there. Face high polygon model for reference. 1200 polygon model again. And so I think this is again a recurring theme. Created by Takashi Ito. And he would become Motoyuki Akoi in the final game, but they for whatever reason haven't named him. And I've got that because Stu's notes are in front of me. I can remember all these names.
Yeah. What's interesting, Matt, is on the actual artwork above the 2D sketch.
Yeah.
They're actually missing the R in burger, so it's bugger, which is quite funny. And I believe, Switch did show me a screenshot that they actually forgot to add the R on the texture on the actual shop as well, or the G or something, but there's a letter missing.
Oh, really?
Somewhere. Yeah, on the in-game shot. I'll try and dig that out and send that over to you.
Yeah, please do.
To sort of show the mistake that they sort of kept in-game.
Because on his 3D model here, burger looks to be spelled correctly.
Yeah.
But then you look at funny, it's missing an N.
Well, that's what it says down here as well, actually. So the 3D model,
it's missing an N.
A green apron with the Funny Bear logo, although funny is missing an N. So just obviously whoever's designing these, perhaps not completely familiar with English.
So. Yeah, about to say, is that a translation issue potentially?
Yeah, probably.
Which they've obviously then got. I think they've corrected in the final model. I'd have to look at him now. I can't remember. Anyway, next model we've got here is security guard. We've got a character order sheet for this one as well. So I'll read a little bit of this out. So VFRPG character order sheet. Request date was December 17th, 1997. Concept by Kenji Miyawaki. Request was Hiroyuki Nakagomi. Creator again was Kenji Miyawaki. Chapter 1, Yokosuka. Character name is security guard. And then it's number 4-44.
See, that sort of goes against what I said before then, right? Because
Yeah,
then
it's
this would be a
weird.
chapter 4 character, so yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
No.
But don't dwell on that, I guess. The date's interesting, actually. The request date is like the very tail end of 97, so very much into the Dreamcast era, aren't we, here, designing the game at this point? So this could sort of lead a bit of credence to them expanding the Shenmue 1 portion. So they're starting knocking out more characters for the harbour, perhaps.
Yeah.
I did always think, when we've seen that beta footage of the harbour in Shenmue 2, and then they scrapped it and rebuilt it again, whether they may have just taken what they'd already made for what was going to be the harbour in Shenmue 2 and just used that as the sort of the blueprint for the harbour in Shenmue 1. I don't know. You know what I mean?
That early stuff where it's like the Hong Kong harbour, it does look a lot more grey, doesn't it?
And it looks very much Shenmue 1-y with the warehouses and stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not all like the brickwork and like more colourful harbour in Shenmue 2, is it? It's very grey and you might be onto something there.
Just thought I'd point that out. So, name security guard, gender male, blood type A, date of birth December the 17th, 1951, which makes him 36 years old. Height, weight 170 centimeters and 66 kilograms. Clothing, security company uniform, cap and gloves. Appearance location, Yokosuka Harbour, which is the warehouse. Frequency appearance, only appears in Yokosuka Harbour. Relationship with Kira, general acquaintance. Required facial expressions, required movements are referred to scenario. Personality, not in particular, as intended as a reusable character, which is interesting. So whether or not they were just going to reuse the same model for different security guards, potentially. It says, other follows his employer's regulations with some exceptions. I don't know what those exceptions are, but...
And then, just before I come on to Stu's notes, we've got an illustration. Again, the sort of the sketches again, which I think was a nice illustration, with the character model number of KEB, in which I'm going to bring Stu in at that point.
Massive feat, by the way, right?
Yeah, huge feat, actually.
So basically, this guy ended up becoming a character in Shenmue 1, one of the security guards, obviously, whose name is Tadashi Akita. So this is actually the security guard that's at the the desk of the entrance to the old warehouse district. He's the one that Ryo sneaks past and grabs the torch before he goes in there.
Maybe that's what they mean by not following all of the regulations. Maybe he's sat there. Is he reading a newspaper or something, isn't he? And...
Yeah, not paying much attention. So, and again, the ID of KEB matches his model name in Shenmue 1's files. And again, with the profile stats and the birthdays, I'm going to sound like a broken record with these, but blood type measurements didn't change, but his birthday did. It was from December 17th, 1951 to December 28th, 1950, but he's still 36.
So bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, don't know why, but there you go. But it's interesting because it sort of suggests this was like the first security guard designed, and then all of the other security guards, they basically used the same uniform, and this guy was like the basis for all the other security guards, it seems like. So
Brilliant.
Very interesting. Cool.
Superb. And then coming down, we've got a 3D model render. Again, he doesn't seem to be named as such, but you can see his model number in there, KBMCHP1, which may sort of lend credence to Stu's point there that this is sort of the basis for the security guards going forward. And it says KBIN equals security guard as well. So again, ended up in the final game itself, but not a huge amount of difference there. But the model number obviously is the same. The date of birth changed. Whether they just got these new date of births out of a hat, I don't know, because they changed a lot of them, and it's random. There's no sort of logic to it.
They could just write down whatever they felt like at the time.
Yeah.
As long as it stayed within the same year, same age range. I don't know. Just the wind.
Oh dear. Right, and then we've got coming down now. We've got our bartender character order sheet. So again, VF RPG character order sheet. This was ordered on December the 1st, 1997. Kenji Miyawaki again. Hiroyuki Nakagomi was the requester. Creator again was Kenji Miyawaki. Chapter 1 Yokosuka. Character name bartender, and there's a handwritten note on there for BAT for, I'm guessing, the model, and the character ID is number 4-41. James.
Yeah, and of course the guy is, well, his name is bartender. Does have a name in the final game, I guess. But gender male, blood type AB. Date of birth is July the 27th, 1950, which makes him 37. Height and weight is 173 centimeters, 68 kilograms. Clothing, they wanted Hawaiian shirt, chinos and sandals. Primary locations, bar in Dobuta Street, Yokosuka. Frequency of appearance, only appears in Dobuta Street, Yokosuka. Relationship with Akira is again a general acquaintance, and then refer to scenarios again for the other 2 points. Personality, it says, perhaps due to working at a bar serving foreigners, he has a rough temperament. And then other, he is well versed in information about underground societies.
And then before we come on to some of the notes that Stu's put together for this one, you've got the character illustration of a guy in a Hawaiian shirt, green trousers. I think that character looks very familiar to a lot of us who would have played Shenmue 1 either back in the day or fairly recently there as well. And you've then got text in there that's translated to bartender. Coming down, you've then got 3D model, which definitely differs from the final model. It's a very early model looking at this one. But again, you can see the basis for that particular character, and obviously then the progression it made into Shenmue 1. But Stu, again, not as big a rabbit hole as some of the others we've come down, but again, a small rabbit hole all the same with some reoccurring themes, I think.
So this guy was obviously pretty easy to identify. He's our friend, the owner of the Heartbeats bar in Shenmue 1. His name would end up being...
Perfect guy, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
His name would end up being Yoshifumi Hato. Again, BAT, that's the exact same ID he's got in the final game. Again, blood type and measurements didn't change, but the birthday, so this one's particularly bizarre. So it was July the 27th, 1950, and then it became July the 21st, 1949. But he's still 37. So he's still got to have his birthday in July.
How nice.
Nice summer birthday. Yeah.
There you go. That's to match the Hawaiian shirt, I reckon.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly, yeah. Must just look 349 days younger or older than...
Yeah.
Model-wise, they thought, this looks 349 days older.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll move on from him. As I say, we're moving swiftly through some of these because they're all NPCs. So not all of these have backstories, but some definitely do. Next one, we've got Tattoo Artist as the character order sheet for this one. So you've probably got some idea who this might be. But you've then got the VF character order sheet dated November the 7th, 1997. Kenji Miyawaki again. Was the original concept. Requester was Hiroyuki Nakagomi. Creator Kenji Miyawaki. Chapter 1 Yokosuka. Tattoo Artist the character name. Character number 4-31.
Right, so name Tattoo Artist. Gender male. Blood type AB. Date of birth September the 8th, 1959, which makes him 29 years old. Height and weight 180 centimeters, 69 kilograms. His clothing is a checkered short sleeve shirt with jeans, sandals, and a bandana on his head. Location shop on Dobuta Street, Yokosuka. Appearance frequency only appears in Yokosuka. Relationship with Akira is an ordinary acquaintance. Required facial expressions refer to scenario. Required actions refer to scenario. Personality has a rough personality, but also a cool, composed side. Under the other category, it says, was once a delinquent, but now appears to have a proper job, ? Due to his job, he has knowledge of the underground world. Possessions, not quite sure what that means. Maybe he just has a lot of them. Has tattoos on his body. And then a little bit of a tidbit at the bottom. So it says the stamp indicates that the document was submitted on January the 18th and verified by Miyawaki and approved with his official seal.
So there we go. Again, not a huge rabbit hole, but one that I think is interesting all the same. Stu, any sort of thoughts or notes on this one?
Yeah, so there's no images of this model, but yeah, it's not much of a mystery, is it? We all know there's only one tattoo parlor in Shenmue 1. So yeah, this guy would end up getting the name of Takashiro. And yeah, there's no character model ID given, but for those who want to know, in Shenmue 1, it's TAT, which obviously short for tattoo artist. Again, blood type and measurements didn't change, but his birthday did. So changed from September 8th, 1959 to April 17th, 1957, but his age didn't change from 29. So this is sort of what I mean about the birth years and dates sort of being all over the place, and not really consistent with each other. But yeah.
So yeah, I just find it really strange that they changed just keep changing these birthdays. Like, was this people on the ground having a bit of fun about it? Does Yu Suzuki even know they were just messing around with these names, or was it his sort of? He goes, I don't like this birthday, I'm going to change it. Weird.
Maybe they just had a record that they just need to be 29 or whatever. In this case, this guy, and they just sort of worked it out on a calendar or something and just went with that. I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, it's a random thought, and it might not even be connected at all. But obviously, when the game was Virtua Fighter RPG, it was Akira, and I know Akira was born the same year as Ryo, and I think from memory, Akira's birthday's in September. Obviously, Ryo's birthday is the 29th of November, but then I don't know why that would mean every other character's birthday needs to change as well. That's yeah.
It's interesting.
And James, you were saying off air about the approval time on this one.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously it was submitted, or the request was sort of given as November the 7th, 1997. And it was actually approved by Miyawaki, like verified and stamped with his approval on January the 18th, which I'd assume would be 1998. So you're talking, there's a period of maybe like 9 weeks, just over 9 weeks from request to submission. So longer than I would have expected, to be honest, for someone to get back on a request. Obviously, the team's super, super busy, but 9 weeks, you're talking like over 2 months, aren't you, for someone to acknowledge the request and then go ahead and create this character at the start of 98. Just sort of shows you, actually, like how much they got done in that last year.
Yeah.
Is that because Nagoshi was there? They're basically beating everybody round the head with a stick.
The whip.
Yeah. Could be, couldn't it?
Get this game done now, and running around.
What are all these requests from, mate? All these 9-week-old requests, get them approved. What's going on?
Just stop pissing about asking them to change facial expressions and just approve it. Like,
I can't remember when the birthday was. Just write a birthday down now.
There we go. I think we've just given everybody an insight to Shenmue 1's development in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Right, moving on. We've got another character order sheet for Greengrocer Lady. Very generic name, but there we are. So, Virtua Fighter RPG character order sheet was requested on November the 20th, 1997. They were doing a lot of these in 97, weren't they? End of 97. They were busy.
Like I say, man, it could just be because at this point they'd split the Shenmue 1 and 2 aspect apart. So they're like, they're nailing the Shenmue 1 stuff now, aren't they? They're like, oh, we need a greengrocer, we need a security guard, we need tattoo artists,
Yeah.
and they're all around the same sort of period, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it could. I'd love to know when they actually made that decision to split the two, but that's probably a rabbit hole to go down another day. So concept Kenji Miyawaki again, requester Hiroyuki Nakagomi, and creator was Kenji Miyawaki. Chapter 1, Yokosuka. Character name rather, Greengrocer Lady, and number 437. And James, some of the details.
Right, so name Greengrocer Lady, female, of course, blood type O, date of birth October the 10th, 1947, which makes her 40 years old. Height and weight is 162 centimeters, 50 kilograms. Clothing, we've got a short-sleeved casual shirt, cotton pants, apron, and boots. The location would be the Greengrocers on Dobuta Street, Yokosuka. Appearance frequency only appears in Yokosuka. Relationship with Akira is a general acquaintance. Required expressions and actions again refer to scenario. That relationship with Akira, like how they've got like a general one, and whatever the last one was the tattoo artist was slightly different, was it ordinary or something?
Yeah,
makes you think that they've like got a scale. So like if it's a general one, they know his name, they're friendly with him. If it's like ordinary or whatever, it's someone he's meeting for the first time, perhaps.
Yeah.
Could be a little bit in that. Personality, warm and friendly, loves chatting and talking a lot. Other has known Akira and his family for a long time. Very knowledgeable about Yokosuka due to being a local.
No comments in particular on that character order sheet. But Stu, some sort of initial observations before we look down at the illustration and render.
Yeah, so the one for the Greengrocer Lady, we've only got this order sheet. We haven't got an image of her. Because I think the render, the illustration renders a male Greengrocer. But basically, we can sort of deduce that this is who would end up being the character of Yoshie Aoi in Shenmue 1, because there's the one Greengrocer in Dobuita. She's the only female that works there. So her and her husband, Aoi-san, sort of work there in shifts. You sort of see one go in and then one go out.
I love that detail,
Yeah, it is really
nice.
Where
in any other game do you have like a husband and a wife combo?
Yeah.
But they've got the shift patterns. So like some days you might see, the female character, and some days you might see the male character, and they've got different voices, they say different things. Such a neat little detail that again in other games they wouldn't go that deep.
Exactly, yeah. It's just that Shenmue attention to detail and just that Shenmue magic, really.
Do you know the rotation? Is it on a daily basis or is it morning and night theme? What's going on?
I can't remember. I think they change sort of multiple times in the same day, but I don't remember exactly how they split their shifts. Not off the top of my head.
I'm going to ask the hard questions here because we are Shenmue Dojo and we ask the very hard questions here. We address the hard issues here. How do the husband and wife see each other if they're on split shifts like that?
Ooh, only at night time, I guess, right? When they're both at home and the
store's
shut.
That's the thing. Sorry, not to go too far into these characters, but Aoi-san, the husband, at night you see him. He goes off and gets drunk at Nana's karaoke bar. And then you see him sort of stumbling back drunk after he's been there. And I think in their profiles it says that she doesn't like that he goes out getting drunk and gambling all the time, and that's why I think she sent their son to a boarding school in England, if I remember rightly.
The backstories are insane, aren't they?
I know. So he can't be influenced by his dad, basically.
Sorry, does she end up anywhere at night?
No, I think she just. I assumed. I think they
she
possibly
heads home.
Yeah, I think she just goes home and then just leaves him to it. Sorry. But basically we can work out that's who it is, and again you can work out it's her from the fact that the blood types the measurement and the ages match as well. But you know what I'm going to say by now. The birth date is different. Went from October 10th, 1947 to August 20th, 1946, but her age stayed as 40, so there you go.
There we go. And Shenmue Dojo asking the hard questions there.
Yeah.
We're getting the hard answers.
So then we come down actually to maybe a drunken delinquent, potentially. We've got a greengrocer character illustration here. Again, I love these. I can't say any more than that. Text is greengrocer. Then you got the description there. Then you've got a 3D model render of the greengrocer, again created by Takahashi Ito. Again, pretty similar to the design in the sketch itself, and clearly when he's not out on the piss getting hammered on God knows what, with his wife sat at home after sending the kid to boarding school in England.
Yeah, sorry, just to say, this guy, like, obviously is identified as a greengrocer, presumably in Yokosuka as well, because he's, grouped with the other Yokosuka characters. But he doesn't actually look anything like Aoi-san in Shenmue 1, which is interesting.
Stockier into the...
Yeah, he's a lot
regular
stockier.
guy.
He sort of wears blue, and he's got a bit of a beard going on as well, I think. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, the design just seems to have changed completely. Like, he possibly looks a bit like one of the greengrocers in Shenmue 2, the one in the Lucky Charm Quarter. I'm not 100% on that, so they might have repurposed him for that. But it's just interesting that you can, like, obviously work out without a picture that the greengrocer lady is his wife. But the design of this guy is completely different from the final game. So yeah.
A lot more memorable in Shenmue 1. The character model. Like, this is just very, very generic, isn't it?
Very,
which is probably why they either scrapped it or upgraded it or whatever.
Yeah.
It probably is that sort of model, not to sort of disparage Shenmue 2 so much, but when you think of Debris to Shenmue 1, that level of detail with all those characters that you have walking around, the routines and everything else, it calls for, I guess, more detailed characters with a bit of backstory and a bit of things.
Yeah, you remember them.
Whereas Shenmue 2, with the pure scale of Hong Kong and the rest of it, you can get away with those more generic looking characters because they're the sorts of characters you might interact with once or never. So you might just see them and just carry on through. So repurposing that model for that sort of thing would make a lot of sense. And then they do a new model for Shenmue 1 where it needs that level of detail.
I mean, to be fair, guys, this could be a Shenmue 2 model or a Chapter 2 model because it doesn't specifically say what chapter it's from. I just looked at here because we do know that there's a greengrocer in Shenmue 1, right?
Oh, fair enough, yeah. Yeah,
so. But it'd be an interesting comparison to that Shenmue 2 one then that Stu's mentioned, and whether actually we have to try and dig around.
We'll have to have a look at that,
Okay, so then we come down to a fishmonger character illustration here. Again, very similar sort of presentation. Ikuchi is written on the apron. Fishmonger is is obviously the name of it. You've got the 3D model render here, which is pretty similar to the sketch that is drawn out there with the same identification on the apron as well. Stu, do you want to come in on a little note on this one?
So as you say, on his apron it says Uekichi, which is the name of the seafood shop in Shenmue 1 in Dobuita. But this particular design, because in Shenmue 1 the guy who owns Uekichi Seafood is Shinkashi-san. But this sketch and the model, it looks a lot closer to the one in What's Shenmue. So again, it's similar to Itoi-san, where the model was like completely different at one point, and obviously this is what the model in What's Shenmue was based on. But then it just changed completely in Shenmue 2. In the final Shenmue 1.
Yeah.
They changed his hair color. They sort of got rid of the hairband. He's got a plaster on his nose for some reason, and some facial hair going on. But yeah, it's just interesting again, like Itoi-san, that early model made it as far as what Shenmue.
Interesting, isn't it? And like even this model doesn't quite look like the one in Watch Shenmue either. There's like a difference. Obviously, this one's got the headband, sort of the white rope thing going on, and the Watch Shenmue guy's got a white rope thing going on. Was that model, like Itoi-san was sort of reused as a harbour worker on a forklift guy? Is this like the only time that this guy's from Watch Shenmue? Was that the only appearance of this guy?
Yeah.
Or...
as far as I'm aware, they didn't use that face or heads anywhere else. I could be wrong. They might have used it for one of the bloody mad angels in the 70-man battle. True. I know, because obviously, I don't remember what they all look like. But
this sort of thing around his mouth looks familiar to me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
I thought the dimples around his mouth.
Dimples, yeah. Looks kind of memorable for some reason. Obviously not the headband thing.
No. Okay, I might have to go down a whole another rabbit hole now. And
it's interesting. I know, James, I think you picked up on this with an earlier model with Itoi-san. Watch Shenmue came out not that far from release, really, did it? It came out in the summer and then it released in December.
Yeah.
You've got like a 4-month period. So, I mean, obviously that demo for Watch Shenmue is going to be older than what that date in August is going to be. It's going to be predated by at least 2 months, I would have thought.
Yeah, because wasn't the demo like an apology for the release date being delayed?
Yes, that's exactly it. So you'd think then, say that demo's then predated by a couple of months, so you're looking at 6 months from release, and they're still fiddling with flipping character models.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
You can see where the money went.
Yeah. Is this will be for you to dig out then, Stu, but I'm thinking like just one of the guys that doesn't really say anything, just wandering around that model with the things, maybe even in the harbour.
Possibly.
Just me looking at that now, I'm like thinking it just looks very recognisable to me. This is the Watch Shenmue version, but I'm sure you'll come up with a blog post or something.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, we'll move down then. We then got Biker 3D model render. Now everybody and their dog will recognise the face on this one if you're a Shenmue fan. So we've got 3D model of a biker wearing a green sleeveless shirt with suspenders, black pants, and round sunglasses from multiple angles and various facial expressions. BIK, biker is the character model identifier. Creation time was approximately 8 hours. Now, is that how long it took them to make the model, I'm guessing? Which isn't that long if it is the case. Created by...
his work.
And then created by Takashi Ito again. But Stu, I think we all recognise this particular model, but do you want to give us a little bit more on this one?
Yeah, so obviously no prizes for figuring out that this obviously became Charlie. Who I'm sure
no artwork to give away then, Stu?
I'm afraid not. So yeah, obviously we know who this is. But yeah, again, the model name of BIK does match his name in Shenmue 1. Obviously suggesting he was just designed as a generic biker first, and then they later decided what to do with him. But yeah, just to note as well that this model here, he's wearing sort of his casual sort of vest sort of attire that you see him wearing in the tattoo parlor when he's on the beds, rather than like the full leather jacket and stuff that he's wearing when he's out and about.
There we go. So that's again, they've changed him quite significantly, I think, over time. But again, that's just, again, like you say, they've found something to do with him, I guess, and at least they've reused him and not just binned him off. But that brings us to the end of the Shenmue 1 characters. We're now diving into Shenmue 2, Chapter 2 characters, and we're starting with a really good character here, Wong. And there's quite a lot of detail around Wong, actually. There's loads of artwork, loads of 3D renders of Wong. But we'll start off with the profile design order sheet as before. So this was requested on July the 7th, 1996.
Interesting.
Makoto Goya was the concept. Requester was Nobukatsu Hironoya. Creator was Ayago Kashihara. Chapter 2, Hong Kong brackets all areas. Character name was Wong and number 12. And then, James, I'll get you the ordered details if I may.
Yeah, of course. So 96 on this one. So again, it sort of shows you this was worked on before this other Shenmue 1 stuff we've just been looking at. So timeline-wise, interesting. Name Wong, gender male, blood type 0, date of birth July the 31st, 1970, which is he's 13, he's quite young. Height, weight is 150 centimeters, 35 kilograms. His clothing is a white t-shirt, jumper, pants. Overall, poor looking, it says in brackets. Main appearance location is Harbour of the Boat People. Wong's Cafeteria, which is interesting, I guess. Frequency of appearance, minor character. Relationship with Akira is friend. And then we've got a little tidbit that Stu's going to come out with a minute on this bit in brackets that says Faye's underling. Character called Faye. Required facial expressions, full range of emotional expressions, boyish charm. Required movements, refer to scenario. Additional motions will be added as needed. So his personality, he's a serious but lively and an energetic boy. Has a friendly personality and many friends. He deeply trusts Faye and looks up to him. His mother, who raised him alone, is more important to him than anyone else. He grew up watching his mother cook, which led him to aspire to become a chef himself, and he's currently training and improving his skills. It says, since his father disappeared and is not at home, he has been helping with his mother's cafeteria from a young age. He zooms around like the wind and admires Faye's fearless, manly strength. We've got some notes here. It says he comes from a poor household, so his outfit should appear somewhat shabby. And we've got some signatures and stamps at the bottom, quite a few for this character.
Been through a few revisions potentially.
Some really interesting points there, especially actually if you're thinking about the anime where he does kind of aspire to become a chef making hot dogs or whatever he does at the end, right?
Selling bananas, isn't he? At the
bananas,
end
actually, you're right. Yeah, true.
He sells bananas, but he's always aspiring for something else, isn't he? Than just being sort of a random bum on the street. And I use that term very generically, not to offend anybody. But Stu, this is one where there is a definite rabbit hole of potential cut content here. Something that, when reading your notes, sort of making the links here, I think a lot of us probably would have missed. Actually, take us through some of this stuff, because I find some of this stuff fascinating.
There is a lot to unpack here. So just to say, first of all, this whole sort of mention of his mother who runs a cafeteria, obviously all of that was just completely scrapped, because in Shenmue 2, it's sort of made quite obvious that he is an orphan. There's no mum or dad in the picture. Because in fact, when Wong's leading you back to where Ryo's bag is, you can talk to him, and during their conversation, he says, like, I don't even know what mum or dad look like. So obviously that means they just completely scrapped all this, and just became an orphan. There's no mum or dad in the picture anymore. But just touching on this with the scrapped thing with his mum, I'm going to sort of put a blog post together about this, about a sort of a theory I have about it, because it's quite interesting, and it sort of lines up with some information that was shared before. So I won't say too much on that. I'm sort of in the process of writing that now, but look out for that on Shenmusings. Cheeky little plug for my blog there.
Why do it? Why not?
Just to whet your appetite. So yeah, that'll go into more detail on my thoughts about this whole Scrap storyline with his mother and the cafeteria. But yeah, the other interesting thing is that it keeps mentioning a character called Faye. So it's a bit of a long-winded explanation for this, so bear with me. So basically, with the Dreamcast version of Shenmue 2, if you put the discs into a PC, you get sort of all these extras, and it's different depending on the disc.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put disc 2 in your PC, you get a load of concept art of sort of the main characters. And it's sort of got little commentary, from the people who worked on the game, just explaining certain things and the things they changed and stuff like that. And if you actually look at the concept art for Ren, it says the following. It says, initially he was going to be called Ryu or Fei, but then we found out that those names often appeared in other companies' games. Finally, we decided to call him Ren. So I thought that was really interesting. And as soon as I saw Faye being mentioned in this order sheet, I was like, yeah, no, I remember that from that concept art.
I was going to say, what's interesting is in Virtua Fighter, there's a character called Faye, right? Isn't that the guy who's like
monk,
Shaolin monk guy? So it does make you wonder, is his moveset based on Ren's, or is it completely separate from...
I'm not sure, because Lei Fei's sort of very much sort of Shaolin martial arts, and when we've seen Ren fight, it's very much just sort of street brawling, isn't it? I don't know if he uses like a particular style, but that is an interesting point. That obviously they thought the name Fei was too generic for this guy, but then they've used Fei as part of a character's name later in Virtua Fighter.
Yeah.
But so you could probably work out that it's talking about Ren anyway, from the way he's described, and people probably worked that out. But I just found that really interesting that you can sort of link it to you can link it to something, some concepts, commentary on concept art that we've had for over 20 years at this point. So just an interesting little detail. And as far as the rest of his profile goes, you probably know what I'm going to say by now. So the
changed?
Well, the measurements didn't change. His birthday changed, but his blood type did as well for whatever reason. So on this order sheet, it's O, but in the final profile, it's B. I've no idea why. I know there's a bit of a thing in Japanese culture with blood types sort of determining your personality, so I don't know if they maybe decided, actually, he's more of a B, or something like that.
His personality's changed slightly.
But his birthday, it's very weird, because on here his birthday is given as July 1st, 1970, but on the final profile, it's changed to August 21st, 1973, which is obviously 3 years and a month later. But both of them still give his age as 13.
Okay.
So, again, there's a lot of discrepancies with the year and how old people are. And it's a bit all over the place.
And that one's quite way out as well, isn't it? Like the other ones, you're thinking about 8 to 12 months. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, because if he's 13, it would mean that the game would have to be taking place in 1983, which we know it doesn't. So, might have just been a bit of a mistake. I don't know.
That's I guess that incremental change as they've gone through the story, gone through the game, and had to make those changes. Obviously, they've moved those, I guess, with a sense of deliberateness about it potentially as well.
And I mean, Space Harrier and Hang On weren't even out in 1983, so you couldn't have those in the arcades.
So, so coming down, then we've got a character design sketch of Wong. So you've got sort of front, side, back, his trousers and a shoe, with text, draw, string, and Wong on it. There's loads of these of Wong. They really, whoever sort of did this went into some sort of real detail here.
Awesome artwork.
This is brilliant.
It looks like the final character as well.
It's pretty close, isn't it? Pretty close. The next one, you've got Wong holding a frying pan, which sort of leads into his character description about wanting to be a chef. That's very much there. I think his shoes have changed a little bit in that design, but very, very slightly. Then you've got here Wong character illustration with that finger by the nose, which obviously if you've seen the 3D render of Wong, that's very, very much that. But again, the character in colour here is, I'd say, 90% of what we got in Shenmue 2 in terms of the presentation. Also very similar to the anime. Again, coming down, you've got a front illustration of Wong again. Nothing really to be said there. This character sketch here of him jumping in front of a tram, I really like that.
I love that, yeah.
Someone in our Discord said it had sort of Dragon Ball Z type vibes in terms of his facial expression. I can't think who said it now, but someone said it in our Discord.
Yeah, there was also Xander pointed out the tram actually almost looks identical to what a tram would look like in Hong Kong as well. So I don't know if originally they ever planned to add a sort of a tram system in Hong Kong, or at least have a glimpse of it. But obviously obviously it's very authentic to Hong Kong though.
Going down mad scientist routes with that in 96, aren't you? Tram systems, everything else. But I love that. I love that sketch.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of character to that. I think is what screams at me there. There's a little bit of text on it, which says luxury brand cigarettes, which I'm guessing is written on the. You can see actually sketches of cigarettes on the tram itself.
Oh yeah.
I hadn't noticed until just now. So that's something new that I've picked up and noticed. Then you've got a head design of Wong, which I'm guessing is fairly early, but again, it bears a lot of resemblance to the final model with obviously the name written on it. Then you come down to some early 3D renders. There's 3 different versions of this. So they went to town on Wong here. The model's broadly what we got in the Dreamcast, but you can see it's early. You can see by the detailing on it, it's a very early model. So whether this was intended for Saturn or Dreamcast, I couldn't tell you. But it's very, very early, and you go through all 3 of them. They all got slight differences. So the top one, you can see you've got sort of side profile, front, back, and some facial shots there. The second one, very similar, but if you look at the bottom images, for example, there's a bit of different lighting on the model, and the one on the bottom right is at a different angle, and his face is slightly different actually as well. The eyes are a little bit more pronounced, the nose is more pronounced, and the lighting's different as well. So they've made a change there to his model. So whether this has gone through an approval process or something like that, they've rendered it and someone's gone, actually I don't like the face on that, can you change it? So they've re-rendered it and then gone, right, check it again and done that. That's potentially a way forward. And then oddly here, the one below it, you've got something it's almost like a washed out type look, isn't it, in terms of the color scheme and on the face and the clothes. So I don't know what they were playing around with here, but again,
the jacket looks a bit longer. Maybe
it is longer. You are completely correct there, James. It is longer. It is much longer. Going down actually, I think the shoes look ever so slightly different as well. So they've clearly gone through some iterations with Wong here, and there's been a lot of work put into his character model, which, given he's only due, as far as we're aware, to appear in Shenmue 2, they've put a lot of time into him and his backstory and the model and everything else. So again, it sort of lends, I guess, a bit of credence to the fact that they were at this for quite a long time.
His hair's definitely a lot neater in these models as well.
Yeah, true. Way less scraggly, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, you've got to think there was a model used for that scene where he's throwing a cherry bomb or whatever he's throwing into that room with Ren, in that beta footage. So could that be this model that they used for that?
It's very possible. To have a look, very, very possible. So that brings us sort of to the end of Wong. So I guess one of the more detailed models and things in terms of completionist side of things. We've got the order sheet, we've got the sketches, we've got the color sketches, and we've got the 3D renders. We almost got a full package here for this one, which isn't always the case for some of the other ones. But again, it's really cool. So then we'll come down to, again, staying on Shenmue 2, we've got Guik Zhang, profile for her design order sheet, commissioned in October 13th, 1997. Kenji Miyawaki was the original concept. Hiroyuki Nakagomi was the requester. Creator Kenji Miyawaki, Chapter 2, Hong Kong. Name Guik Zhang, character number 2-83.
Right, so name, they've given it as Keika, which is the Japanese word for Guixang, apparently, or Guizang, however we pronounce that. Gender, female, blood type, O, date of birth, February the 19th, 1910. So she's 76 years old and would have been around to witness the Emperor if she was in Bailu, I suppose. 1910. Height and weight, 147 centimeters, 43 kilograms. Clothing, she's wearing a Chinese dress with shoes. Appearance location, Hong Kong. Frequency only in Hong Kong. Relationship with Akira is a general acquaintance. Facial expressions refer to the free scenario, so they'd already coined the word free at this point, or the genre, I guess. Refer to free scenario for personality. Other nothing, but notes it's got, she teaches the meaning of the character courage. So obviously that is one of the wood, I would have assumed, or at least the conceptualized idea of
an early reference.
Something about the wood.
I only had a quick look, but I think the character does match the kanji or whatever it is of that wood.
Did you say it does?
I'm pretty sure it does, yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Looking at it on the surface, I mean, she's 76. Like you say, James would have seen the Emperor, potentially. Obviously a Shenmue 2 character. Stu, any sort of notable differences here before we go down into sort of have a look at the model and the sketches?
Yeah, so again, for some reason, like Wong, her blood type changed. So here it's O, but then by her final profile changed to B. Again, guess is as good as mine. Why? Her measurements stayed the same, but the birthday again, so it changed from February 19th, 1910 to January 8th, 1911, but she still stayed as 76.
She'd have missed the Emperor, though.
Yeah. And then just to note as well, so on the sort of sketch and the model that you're going to come to, Matt, mentions, gives her the ID of KEK, like short for, Keika song, which is like the Japanese pronunciation, and that is what her model's called in Shenmue 2 as well.
Excellent. So that's quite a good little description there, sort of breakdown. Very similar to what we got in obviously Shenmue 2 with little changes in the date of birth, etc. But you come down to the character illustration sketch. I would say 95% of what we got is in that sketch. Her face is slightly more, I try to scrunched up here potentially. To put that politely.
She's also got a stick with a marshmallow on in this illustration. Obviously not. And
then you got text KK Guixang, and then later on you've got the 3D render, which she looks less cranky in this 3D render than she is in the game. She looks a bit
softer, doesn't she?
Yeah. So it says cake is a Japanese pronunciation of Guixang, as you said, Stu, made by Takaishi Ito. The clothing's the same. The clothing's the same as Shenmue 2, but they've obviously then developed the face. I think she's a lot more stern, I think, in her appearance in Shenmue 2.
Does she have a pipe? Does she have a pipe in Shenmue 2?
Not that I remember, but I could be wrong.
I don't think you see her, no.
It's kind of like the guy in Shenmue 3 with the pipe on the sofa.
Yeah. Sue's Tall Tales.
Yeah.
We'll move on from Guixang. We've now got Han Kui, who's Zhuing's disciple, character profile, order sheet, design order sheet. So VF RPG character order sheet. This was fairly late on now, January 27th, 1998.
Wow, my birthday.
Oh, there we go.
Well, I was 10 years old on this day. No, I wasn't. I was 11, actually.
It's mind-blowing in itself, really, when you think about that. You go, they made this character when I was 11.
Yeah.
I'm celebrating, like, probably got blown out the candles or something, and they're knocking up a Hanhui artwork.
Yeah, I had no idea they were cooking up this game that we'd become completely obsessed with in a few years. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Scary.
sat there going, what the hell did we do? So Kenji Miyawaki was the original concept. Hiroki Nakagomi, again, was the requester. Creator Kenji Miyawaki. Chapter 2, Hong Kong. Character name, Zhuing's Disciple. Number 2-21 crossed out, and it ended up being number 2-84.
Interesting. So they're prone to making mistakes as well, I guess. These scribbles and crosses and whatever they're doing on them. So the name, Zhuing's Disciple, gender male, blood type B. Date of birth is January the 21st, 1947, which makes him 37. Height/weight, 170 centimeters, 67 kilograms. His clothing is Chinese-style robes, kung fu shoes. Location, Mamo Temple. Frequency, only appears at Mamo Temple. His relationship with Akira is a general acquaintance again. And then everything is pretty much referred to scenario, apart from personality, which apparently follows the strict Buddhist teachings. And he is the disciple of Li Shuing.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a change as well. Li Shuing. Obviously, we now know as Shuing Hong. Stu, there's some notable differences with this one.
Yeah, quite a lot here. So basically, the only thing that stayed the same was the fact he's male, and obviously his design pretty much. But everything else, so his blood type changed from B to AB, and then the birthday. So originally, it was January 21st, 1947. With his age given as 37, but they then changed that to September 30th, 1943, and aged him up to 43. So he went from 37 to 43, but obviously he looks pretty much exactly the same. Just seems a bit harsh.
True. Maybe they just thought he looked too old than his age here.
Yeah. Quite possibly. And his measurements actually changed as well. So he was 170. Yeah, he was 170 centimeters tall and 67 kilograms. But they then changed it to, so he's shorter now, even though the model looks the same. He's now 150 centimeters and 71 kilograms. So he put on a bit of weight, but became shorter.
I would have flipped it the other way around, because the artwork, at least the sketch, he looks quite short and stodgy, doesn't he? So
and just to note as well, so on the model render that we'll be coming to in a minute, there's an ID at the bottom of that where it's DES, presumably short for disciple, even though that would obviously be DIS, but it might be a bit of English translation thing going on. But in the final game it's KNK, which is probably again like Guizhang, that's like the Japanese pronunciation, because I think if you listen to when they say his name, it's like Kunkui or like something like that. So
interesting. Okay,
so quite a lot of changes for this one. Like they've almost like, it seems like they've had a crisis of identity and gone, right, we're going to redo him. But they come down to sort of obviously the actual character illustration. And James, I think you made the point, he looks a lot shorter and stockier in this particular.
He does in the artwork model. Definitely. Massive feet.
Right? Yeah, big. Yeah, they've all got big feet actually. Maybe that's the theme. It says Zhuing's Disciple reference in the text on there. Then you've got a 3D render of Han Hui again. He looks softer in his face. I mean, the model and the clothes are very similar to Shenmue 2, but his face is a lot less stern here. Whereas in 2, I think he's more of that sort of guiding, sort of stern figure for Ryo a little bit. Obviously, while he's then running around finding out about the wound and training with him. So again, there's a definite progression with this one. It says the character model here is Des MCHP. Again, it's made by Takashi Ito, and it says Ewing's disciple on it. So they haven't named him here in this render either, which is interesting. They obviously named him much later on in proceedings by the looks of things as well. So that brings us through this one. Any final thoughts on Hanhui before we move on?
No, not for me.
Yeah, just obviously it's quite weird that they just didn't change his design too much, but they just like randomly decided to change some of the other stats. But yeah, just a strange one.
Very weird. So then we've got another character order sheet here. Erin character order sheet was requested. This is really late in the day looking at this one. July the 30th, 1998. Requester is a scenario planning group, Izumi. This is interesting. Chapter 3, Hong Kong, with a note that we think it might be a possible incorrect chapter. Erin, which is a Japanese pronunciation. Character number 0316, James.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd assume with it's been Hong Kong that the chapter's wrong, but then I'm not so sure now that you've pointed out that the date is that close, because could they maybe have been working on like a chapter that came after, if you know what I mean? Like,
wow, you don't know, do you?
At this stage. Interesting. And obviously the character number is 03, which, like I did try and suggest before, like maybe that has something to do with the chapter number. I know we did get some 04 stuff, so maybe not. I'm not sure, but very interesting. Yeah, you can see at the top of the document there, it's definitely got a 3 next to the chapter, but
yeah, it does.
It does say Hong Kong, so that's why we thought it might be a typo. I'll let you guys decide that either way. So name, Erin, gender male, age is 23, height 176 centimeters, weight 72 kilograms, blood type A, appearance location Hong Kong, the urban areas inside and outside of Mammo Temple. Nationality is English, raised in Hong Kong. It says auto or free. So they've added this sort of extra point now on this document with it being, after post sort of coming up with the acronym free. Clothing, same clothes as Hanhui. And then it says ID 084. So that was that, does that match with Hanhui's ID 84?
Doesn't say.
Didn't it scribble out and they put 84 in the end?
Oh, yes, it does. You are correct.
Yeah,
yes.
284, yeah.
So that adds up. Role, a young Taoist of Mammo Temple, guide during the boot-carrying event at Mammo Temple. Main actions are not specified. The skeleton is OHS. So this is... I've heard this quite a lot. People talking about like the different skeleton types. OHS is familiar to me anyway. Like referring to the actual in-game code for the models and that sort of stuff, and the skeleton attached to that. Personality gives a softer impression than Hanhui. It says where Hanhui is a martial artist, Erin feels more like a scholar, which is interesting. Other, Hanhui's junior. And it says notes, create the model as an alternative costume set based on Des M.MT3. 1,200 polygons, which we've seen quite a few character models been built in this 1,200 polygon structure. And then it says adjust the design slightly to match the character's age. So yeah, very peculiar one. Obviously you'd assume that this guy never made it into the game or got cut or got repurposed, but with it being so late in the day, I mean, still not quite late enough for Shenmue 2, because obviously Shenmue 2 didn't get released until 2001, so actually it's early prior to sort of Shenmue 2 actually getting released. But could this be a guy that maybe Rio went back to Hong Kong? Like if there is in this original sort of chapter structure, maybe there was a chapter 3 where Rio left Hong Kong, maybe went to Kowloon or whatever and maybe Kowloon was the chapter 3 that they're referring to, which is still in Hong Kong, but it's a Kowloon portion, and maybe that cutscene where Rio heads back to Mamo Temple at the end of Kowloon and sees Xuing again. Maybe there was a playable area section conceptualized where this guy then appeared. I don't know.
I mean, possibly when you look at all the beta footage that's kicking around of Shenmue 2 and Hong Kong, and actually what it looks like in the beta footage to what we ended up getting is very, very different, isn't it? So it could all have been these cut areas that this sort of character may well have appeared in or reappeared in. It's, again, I think a very small piece in a very large jigsaw puzzle that we are slowly putting together, but I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of it unless we raid Sega Japan HQ and find everything in their basement. But
it's using that as a sort of a thing, Matt. If you're finding an extra bag of jigsaw pieces, well, it's still not enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It still doesn't complete the picture.
And I don't know if we ever will, given I think the amount of time and development that went into Shenmue. But this Stu's a character that's been through, I guess, quite a journey in terms of what it is here to what ended up in Shenmue 2.
Yeah, so it does sort of feel like this is a character that just basically went through like a complete change and a complete overhaul, basically. But just to note as well, obviously the profile mentions that he's English, which, you know, would sort of make sense if there's maybe British people in Hong Kong, you know, given that, you know, Britain was in control of Hong Kong at the time. But it sort of suggests that Irene, or however you say it, is maybe like a Japanese pronunciation of an English name. So maybe it's meant to be Aaron or something similar. I'm not sure, just sort of crossed my mind. But yeah, the fact that it mentions that he's your guide during the book carrying event at the temple. So it sort of seems like this guide was sort of completely changed to become the guy who actually does help you carry the books in Shenmue 2, who's called Jiliang. But yeah, basically just completely different. Like, obviously Jiliang's Chinese. Jiliang's only 16, you know, whereas this guy's like in his 20s. But it's just really interesting that they obviously originally had a completely different character in mind for the book carrying.
Is there like any British citizens in Shenmue 2? Was it something like a touchy subject, so they removed them, or would that not be the case? I don't really know the politics around it.
No, I don't think there is. Like, all of the sort of the foreign non-Chinese people that you do have in Shenmue 2, I feel like they're all sort of there's like a few Americans maybe, but the rest of them are like
Barry Jones.
Yeah, and you know, you got like the Mongolian arm wrestlers, and there's a few like Middle Eastern people, I think, isn't there? But I don't.
What about that other darts player, the one that's in like the suit almost with the moustache?
Yeah, he does have. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he has got a Chinese name.
Okay.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you look at, I think, Shenmue 2 on the Dreamcast, there's obviously you've got the British flags flying off the hotel, for example, which are then cut, I believe, certainly from the re-releases. I can't remember if they're cut from the Xbox release originally. I'd have to look. But there's some changes there. So some of the references to sort of the Hong Kong being under British control have been removed. It's certainly in the later release on PlayStation 4 and Xbox. But interestingly, they had to keep the coin the same with the Queen's head on it, because that's quite an integral part of those two cutscenes where Ren flips the coin and screws Rio over, sort of dupes him a little bit. So,
but then they very much leaned into the whole thing of Britain controlling Hong Kong in the anime, didn't they?
Very much so.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. There was a lot more commentary of how it was like affecting Hong Kong, and that's right. It was just before we sort of relinquished control of it, wasn't it? So obviously there was a lot of yeah, a lot of stuff around that. But,
We relinquished control in the late 90s. I can't remember the date. I want to say 98, 90, late 98, early 99. We relinquished control of it because I remember at the time a lot of Hong Kong residents were quite worried about it because of, I guess, the way the Chinese government sort of, I guess, curtail freedoms that they had in Hong Kong. Obviously, there's been protests over in Hong Kong fairly recently, not to get political, but there's quite a long storied history here that I don't know if Shenmue 2 touches on it in masses of detail in that respect, partly because it doesn't want to annoy people. I can't remember, but did two release in China?
I don't think any of them have released in China. Not as far as I know.
I was wondering, like, is there like a different medium, like depending on the type of medium? So like animation compared to game, is there like fewer restrictions? So then they sort of went down that sort of British narrative with the animation that they couldn't really do in the game for some reason. Like, again, I don't really know enough about the politics to know if that's something they were considering that might have stopped a release in China, for example.
Yeah, because in the anime, they don't pull any punches at all. Like, Joy basically says, like, you know, Britain's relinquishing control soon. This is why, you know, this part of Hong Kong is like just run down, and people are people are getting kicked out of their homes and what have you. Like, it's quite brutal with what it's saying, but it's only hinted at in the game. So
yeah, they don't really touch on it, do they? Interestingly, yeah, it's very interesting point around how they approach that. A bit of a rabbit hole we've gone down, so I'll stop us with the political talk.
just could give a bit of a reason to why this particular guy was cut or repurposed into someone that ended up being Chinese rather than English or something.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Coming down now, we've got a very nice sketch of Fang Mei here. Now pretty much resembles her Shenmue 2 model. Again, I love these sketches.
Love it.
But then we've got a different look of Fang Mei here. The clothes are the same, but the hairstyle is very, very different here. Makes her look a bit younger, actually, I think.
Yeah, this one, I might be wrong, Stu, but this already been previously released? Was that on the Shenmue Goodies discs?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure this was one of the ones that's on that disc, and there's like a load of other Fang Mei concept art on there as well. They basically went through like loads of different designs before settling on the final one.
So, and that's just a couple of Fang Mei there. Well, then we come on to a character here, Stu. You've got a little bit on this one. Mi Fa character illustration. Now you'll recognise this little girl. I'm fairly sure. But do you want to go into this one a little bit, Stu? Because actually the name has changed in the final product.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This girl ended up in Shenmue 2, and her name in Shenmue 2 is Shaoqin Lu, and basically you see her sort of helping out her grandfather at the pharmacy in the South Carmaine Quarter, and again, not to go down sort of tangents or rabbit holes, but there was sort of a whole scrapped sort of side quest involving her and Mao Village, and all of that stuff that was scrapped in the final game.
Post, go check it out.
Yeah, exactly. Switch has obviously done a whole series of blog posts about that on Phantom Riverstone, but obviously here she's referred to as Mi Fa, and in Shenmue 2 her model is still called like Mi MII. I don't know if that name has something to do with like how you pronounce her name in Japanese. Like I don't know, or whether it is just like a completely different name. Not sure.
Interesting.
Cool. Then you've got the 3D model render, which again is fairly similar to the sketch that we've got as well, with sort of the character back to front, and then some head renders there as well. And then you've then got sort of a prototype Mi Fa 3D render as well in very different clothing. That is a very early prototype looking at that one compared to the one above it.
Yeah, the only reason why we just assumed it was the same character was, again, because of the model number being, or the model name being MII, me, again.
Yeah, if you look as well, though, it's still got those sort of that little duck design.
True, on the
as well.
clothing.
Yeah.
Interestingly, again, it says prototype character me on the artwork. Additional option parts, texture changes, partial transformations, etc. Time required was 7 hours to make. Made by Takashi Ito. Then coming down, we've got a sketch of a second-hand clothing shop employee, a character illustration of a guy in a stripy shirt, glasses, and some blue jeans. And then we have the 3D model render just below that, where it's pretty much rendered one-to-one with the sketch itself. So second-hand
he's
clothing...
wearing his own products, doesn't it?
It does a bit, doesn't it? Second-hand clothing shop owner, FRT is the model reference. High polygon model for reference. 1200 model, polygon model for in-game use. Created by Takashi Ito. Again, Stu, a little observation on this one, but not much.
Yeah, so I did have a route around and a bit of a look, but yeah, I couldn't really find a match for anyone in Shenmue 2 with this guy. Like, obviously there are a few characters sort of running stalls that sell secondhand clothes, so look like you got in the White Dynasty Quarter in Bonchai, and then you've got maybe a couple in the Stan Quarter in Kowloon. But yeah, I couldn't really find any that match this guy specifically. Might have to do a bit more digging on this one, but yeah, I couldn't sort of find, couldn't sort of track down this one.
Cool. So we'll move on. We then got a character order sheet for a character called Ji. And this was created on June the 17th, 1998. Scenario planning group Izumi again. Interesting. So that is, I'm guessing that's a code name for the team that are working on this, because obviously Izumi, we know who she is in the game. Hong Kong, character name Ji, or Xia is Japanese pronunciation. Number 279, and then the details, James.
Yeah, so again, character name she, Sha, whatever. Gender male, age 35, location Hong Kong, urban areas, appearance frequency as free only, clothing refer to the illustration or up to the modeler. Role, a minor free character, main activity usually sitting next to a stall smoking a cigarette. Other details, sells magazines at a street stall, knowledgeable about urban geography, ?
Interesting. And then you've got an illustration of him just below with the character, I guess a model of ZAS or OHS, and then down below that you've then got the 3D model render, which says the model is ZASLSYA, which obviously transcribes to what's in the character order sheet, made by Takashi Ito. It says he's a magazine stand owner, but people will be very unfamiliar with this character, as were we, and Stu, there's a very good reason for that.
Yeah, so basically, it just seems like this guy was just completely scrapped, because you don't see any like magazine stalls or anything like that in Shenmue 2. And I don't think this model ended up being used anywhere else either. Could be wrong on that, but I didn't immediately recognize this guy, so I think he was just scrapped altogether.
What'd be interesting to do is have a dig through that early Shenmue 2 footage again that we watched, and just see if there's like a slight camera angle with this dude in the background, like potentially a stall or something.
It's possible, isn't it, that that's something that, again, when you think of that footage, which is very different to what we got, that he could have been one of those characters within that as well. Okay, so we'll move down. We've got Wu character order sheet. So again, 1998, June the 11th, 98. Scenario planning group Izumi again. Hong Kong, character name Wu, number 271. This is interesting, though.
Could have put these in a bit of an order actually, because I just noticed that this was slightly before the previous character She, and quite a ways before that Erin guy. So slightly out of order, but doesn't particularly matter. It's just something I just noticed. So name Wu, gender male, 24 years old. There's no height or weight for some reason. Location Harbour, Hong Kong. Frequency of appearance is free only. Clothing refer to the illustration. His role is a free NPC and his main position standing behind the register inside a general store. Personality is afraid of the Harbour's gang, which is Ren and his group, and has been thrown into the sea before apparently, which is maybe something they took into the Shenmue 1 Mad Angels storyline rather than the heavens, perhaps, I don't know. It says other, works at a general store, and then it says he took over the store this year after his father collapsed. Do you want some in-depth backstory there? And he also dreams of travelling abroad.
Interesting. And then we've got the character illustration here. Guy in sort of a red and grey striped polo shirt with sort of scraggly black hair, black shorts, and black shoes. And then you've got the 3D model render, which I think is a slight difference from the sketch itself. The hairstyle is very different to what is in the actual sketch, and I think the colouring on the top is different. But Stu, this is one that people won't recognise, but some of the more eagle-eyed people like yourself will definitely know all about.
Obsessive people like me might have recognised this guy. So, yeah, interestingly, this guy's character model is still in the files for Shenmue 2. Obviously sitting there unused, but it's there. Did provide an image of it in the notes, which I'm sure you can bring up. But yeah, thank you to Switch for the image of that. So just interesting that model's still sitting in there. Mentions that he runs a general store. And there's a couple of general stores in Shenmue 2, the one in Queen Street and the one in the Lucky Charm Quarter. But yeah, the characters behind the counter in those stores are like completely different from this guy. So yeah, I don't know if there was originally another general store or whether this guy was just replaced altogether. But
I'd say the harbour, didn't it? So maybe there was going to be a general store in the harbour area.
Yeah, because
maybe like the old version of the harbour.
Yeah, because the Aberdeen one in Shenmue 2's on Queen Street, which is sort of coming away from the harbour. It's obviously more of a residential bit. So yeah, it could have been originally there was one in the harbour bit.
Brilliant. So we'll move that one down. So again, one for the eagle-eyed, I think there. For sure, but it's just fascinating how much of this stuff's just lying there, just sat there, doing nothing, but all of a sudden has quite a lot of relevance to all these models and things that we've come across. And the next one's actually no different and very interesting, but for slightly different reasons. We've got part-time job supervisor, the character order sheet here. Slightly earlier, this one was October 13th, 1997. You know what I'm going to say here. Kenji Miyawaki was the concept. Hiroki Nakagomi was the requester. Creator was Kenji Miyawaki. Chapter 2, Hong Kong. Name, part-time job supervisor. Character number was 236, was just crossed out to 237. And then, James, you want to take us through the details?
Yeah, so again, another little mistake they made there. So I don't know if that sort of shows or suggests that rushing through this a little bit, they're prone to making mistakes. That previous character, Matt, there was a little bit of a translation thing that Switch left, that he sort of suggested that maybe the model number they left on there, which was like SYA or something, potential as a Japanese pronunciation for that She, which was the character previously to that, so it's like they just left that in by mistake. So a couple of little mistakes going on, but obviously doesn't particularly matter. A lot of these were scrapped anyway. So the name of this one that we're looking at here, Matt, part-time job supervisor, male, blood type A, date of birth January the 10th, 1950, which makes him 36 years old. Height and weight 181 centimeters, 80 kilograms. Clothing as a work shirt, work pants, a helmet, a hand towel, and gloves. He appears in Hong Kong and only appears in Hong Kong. He is a general acquaintance to Rio, or Akira, I guess probably it says. Required facial expressions refer to free scenario, refer to free scenario, refer to free scenario. But notes are he's a part-time job supervisor, which is his name anyway, so that's quite obvious.
And before then, we sort of come on to where we see this dude before, and we have seen him years before we actually saw him in Shenmue 2 here. You've got the 3D model render here with the guy in a hard hat, broad shoulders, wearing a vest and blue jeans, with the model number AZSL Baito Chief OHS Bone, which is part-time job made by Takashi Ito. But Stu, this is one that made a very early appearance.
He did, yeah. So I knew I'd seen this guy in like early screenshots or early footage somewhere. Had to do a bit of digging to find exactly where. But yeah, basically, part of the footage that they shared during the Shenmue premiere event, which I know you guys have gone quite in depth on before, about how that event came about.
Yeah.
But during part of that footage, you do see this guy, and he seems to have the role of a part-time job supervisor, because you see him like in the early sort of Hong Kong harbour, which, as you say, James, looks a bit more.
Yeah,
Like
it
the
was
one
this
in Shenmue
screenshot
1.
actually in your document that made me think that, because it's even got
Yeah.
like the number 10 on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, so this is where I was number 10, and you can see the big sort of Genpu Maru looking ship behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they just repurposed what they'd already built for the Aberdeen harbour and then remade the Aberdeen harbour and used that concept, or some of the textures and stuff that they'd already built for the Shenmue 1 harbour, perhaps.
Yeah,
is what I'm thinking.
They may well have done. So basically, I think what happened with this guy, I think basically he ended up becoming Mr. Sun in Shenmue 2, who's obviously the part-time job supervisor. Obviously, they changed the design quite a lot. But yeah, in this footage from the Shenmue premiere, you do see him. He seems to be like explaining to Ryo how the job works, and he sort of points towards a character that looks very much like Dulin, and as well as that, looking at the details we've got here, his blood type and his measurements are exactly the same as what would end up being Mr. Sun's in Shenmue 2.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they did change the age from 36 to 37, and the birthday did change, but then obviously that's seems to be par for the course for like all of these characters, so it's not really a surprise. But
so Mr. Sun in Shenmue 2 is actually younger than we are now, because he looks
oh my God,
looks quite old, doesn't he?
You've just really depressed me now. Oh my God,
dear, oh dear.
Sorry guys,
I'm just having a crisis over here.
And on that note, we're going to bring the show to a close now. No, I'm joking. So we'll move on from that and depressing ourselves. We're moving on to Onka, who's the next character that we've got here. Again, this was requested quite late in the day, June the 8th, 1998. Scenario Planning Group Azumi, Chapter 2, Hong Kong. Onka is the Japanese pronunciation, character number 2103, James.
Yep, so Onka, male, 36, not specified his height or weight. He appears in Hong Kong at the harbour area. Frequently is free only. Clothing says any request or ideas, so they didn't really have an idea, I guess, at the time for when they requested the character. It says role sits at the harbour table drinking beer. Personality does not respond properly due to being drunk. And then it says other in number 3. So I'm not sure what that means. Could it mean chapter 3? Like I say, maybe they had they We did have a Hong Kong chapter as a chapter 3, potentially. But again, it says in number 3, helps Akira, who was searching for Li Shuing's residence, find somewhere to stay.
Very good.
Yeah, very
And
interesting.
You've got a sketch again, sort of polo shirt, blue jeans, with the polo shirt's got green and grey stripes on it. Then you've got the 3D model render just underneath that, with it's pretty much what the sketch is. Model number ONK or ONKA OHS Bone, made by Takashi Ito. But again, a character that's gone through a lot of changes again, Stu.
Yeah, so this was an interesting one. Sort of took quite a bit of digging, because I was looking at his face and I thought, I know I've seen that face in Shenmue 2 somewhere, but I didn't feel like he was wearing those clothes. But I eventually did figure it out. So yeah, basically this guy became a character. His name's Enhua Mao, but basically his role in the game, as well as his clothes, just seemed to completely change. Because here in the order sheet is sort of described as just the local drunk. But then in Shenmue 2, he owns one of the electronic shops in the Lucky Charm Quarter. And as I say, they just changed his clothes completely. And I'll try and get a better image of what he looks like in Shenmue 2 for you guys as well, so it's a bit easier to compare. But yeah, he's the model ID here of ONK, obviously short for Onka, is still the same for his model in Shenmue 2, like even though they completely changed the clothes. And yeah, here it says he's 36, but in Shenmue 2 he's suddenly been aged up to 56. So it must be very stressful running an electronics shop, I guess.
Well, yeah, age 20 years old, and only thing changed is his clothes.
Oh dear, in one fell swoop as well. Right, so we come down to the next character, who is Shun. Quite a small character order sheet here, but requested July 2nd, 1998 by the same planning group, Azumi, Chapter 2 Hong Kong, character name Shun, number 0236, James.
Yeah, so Shun is a male, 28. His height and weight's not specified, but he appears in Hong Kong, the harbour, and Kowloon Wall City, which is interesting. He appears only in the 3 sections. The clothing is up to the modeler, apparently. The role is just a free NPC. He waits for a buzz at the bus stop, so that's his harbour appearance. Occasionally raises a camera at scenery or people. His personality is not specified, and he plans to continue taking photos of Hong Kong until its handover. So another little mention of the politics there. A cameraman says he's always holding a camera.
And then here we've got the character illustration sketch with him with his camera, looking very much like that sort of stereotypical sort of guy who's cameraman hobbyist type thing. And then his 3D render again. He looks slightly thinner in that render to what he is in the sketch, with the text SYN or Xian, obviously for Shun, and you got a 3D model there. But again, another one that's been through some changes and has ended up a change of career, in fact, Stu.
Yeah. So yeah, some people might recognize him from the clothes, but basically this guy ended up becoming the guy who owns the Big Catch tackle shop in Shenmue 2, Meng Yuan Zong. Obviously his name changed there. But yeah, what's interesting, obviously here it says like originally he was like just a photographer, like wandering around Hong Kong and Kowloon. But if you remember in Shenmue 2, it does seem like the whole character trait of him being a photographer was still kept, because obviously he's got that like notice board in his shop of like all the photos of like all the local people who've like caught fish, including the photo of Wong that he gives Rio if you get that cutscene. So yeah, I just found that one interesting. It's like they changed his role sort of quite significantly, but they decided to keep the character trait of him being into photography. I thought that was interesting. But again, like the previous guy, they decided to age him up. So he was 28 here, and once he's running the tackle shop in Shenmue 2, he's 39 suddenly. So
what it's saying is living in Hong Kong is very stressful.
Yeah.
Will age you rapidly.
indeed.
Definitely.
Not that we're saying that in real life.
No.
Just to put that out there. It's just very. There's a lot of changes for that sort of thing. Aging up, aging down. It's just very interesting that insight.
Could be like a looks thing, like maybe Yu Suzuki sat down looking at the picture of this model guy, and he's like, what, it's 28 or whatever. He looks older than that, so they've upped his age. I don't know.
Maybe. And just to say as well, it's similar to the previous guy. The character ID of the model is still the same in Shenmue 2. So here it's given as SYN, presumably referring to like the name of Chun. But yeah, the model's still called that in the final Shenmue 2.
Brilliant. And I like the fact they've sort of kept that nod to his previous sort of character development. Actually, that's something that's not been a reoccurring theme through a lot of these. They've sort of just changed it and binned other bits off. Whoever dealt with this character, I said, you know what? Let's just, whether it's a deliberate thing or not, I'm guessing so. They've just sort of kept that. It's a nice little nod there to the sort of progression of the character and the development there, which is cool. Okay, we're moving into sort of the last section of these now. So we've got Boat People 4 character order sheet. This is quite, I guess, generic in some respects, but you've got a VF RPG character order sheet named Boat People 4 dangerous looking types in brackets. The date of creation was, I'm guessing, the 23rd of January 1997. Created by the Scenario team, requested Hiroyuki Nakagomi, creator Aigo Kashihara, Hong Kong, and location was Hong Kong City, Ewing's apartment, potential location mistake.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it does sound like it, doesn't it? Considering they're saying boat people.
Boat people.
And number 2 at 45.
Right, so yeah, Boat People 4, and it says in brackets here, one of Faye's henchmen. Please make him look a bit sketchy, so someone that knows Ren, according to this sheet. Gender male, blood type A, date of birth is 1967, January, 20th of January. So that makes him 18 years old. Height and weight is 180 centimeters, 55 kilograms. His clothing is dirty work clothes, marked running shoes, dirty cotton pants, and sneakers. Appearance location is Kowloon and Aberdeen, which is interesting. Appearance frequency is a general use NPC from Chapter 2 onwards. Relationship with Akira, he's actually a comrade of Faye. Expressions refer to scenarios. Required actions refer to scenario and additional motion updates as needed. Apparently he's a fast talker, he's foul-mouthed and dangerous. He doesn't know when to stop. If no one stops him during an argument, he may kill someone. QT.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Pop up a action QT or something. Otherwise, he stabs you or something. Yeah. Notes, it says, aside from Chapter 2, this character will be used as a general NPC with varying clothing colours, so please prepare alternative outfits accordingly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, just interestingly, I don't know, Stu, if you know for definite or not if this guy has been scrapped or never appeared, but just clothing doesn't match up to any of the people that fight Rio as you're exploring the Beverly Hills Harbour sort of area.
Yeah, I did have a look through like the Heavens members that are in Shenmue 2, and I couldn't seem to match this guy to any of them. Like the stats in his profile didn't seem to match up with any of them either. So yeah, it just sort of seems like he might have been a like really early idea for like a Heavens member that didn't make it through.
And then coming down, you've got the character sketch here with a few sort of labels to this one, which I will read out. So you've got the text here, so where's the little rat? Then it's interesting. Rat. Rat's referred to a lot in the Yellowhead building, isn't it?
True,
Del
actually.
Neo
Yeah,
runs
Del
around
Neo.
going rats.
Yeah.
Interesting point there. Boise, and then it's got over dirty work clothes, undershirt, and it says so it can be reused, which again refers to what they say on the character order sheet there. And then, very interestingly, you look at the sketch and look at the model. The model's much more feminine looking.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah,
and I would argue probably one of the worst looking models overall, given what we've got. It's very early, isn't it? But it doesn't look like it went much beyond what we've got here in terms of the development of this particular model. It's very early by the looks of it, and one that I guess they, like you say, they canned it and it's never to be seen again, but an interesting insight all the same to a long lost model that's probably never going to see the light of day ever again. Then coming down, I like this one because there's some links here potentially to the anime as well. TIB Thug 2 Gory character illustration. You've got sort of a front sketch of him, then you've got a back sketch with his slacks going into his belt, and you've got a head sketch on the top right hand side there. The text saying slick back hair, sleeves rolled up, and it says please make the purple as dark as possible to not stand out more than Yuan. You've got the back view there, then you've got the character 3D render there where the face I think looks less pronounced, certainly in terms of around the lips and things there. Doesn't look as pronounced as the sketch does itself. Again, same model number TIB. But Stu, you've got some small thoughts on this one as well.
Yeah, so basically this appears to be like quite an earlier design for one of the Yellowheads, Guan, who had quite a prominent role in the anime, actually. I'd say probably more so than he did in Shenmue 2. So yeah, it just sort of seems to be a much earlier sort of quite different clothing he's got here. I actually didn't notice that note about make the purple as dark as possible, not stand out more than Yuan. I didn't actually notice that the first time I was looking through these, so that's quite interesting.
Adds weight to that character, doesn't it? That it's meant to be, I guess, because he is pretty much Yuan's henchman, isn't he?
Yeah, I'd more so in the anime, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the game, I think, I mean, you do see him like in that, because he's the one who's sort of carting Zhang through the
one that's on the bike as well? Catches back up on the bike later
in the anime.
That's where I was thinking that you get.
Yeah, but they definitely give him a lot more to do in the anime. So yeah, sort of quite interesting that they were concentrating quite hard on his design here. Sort of suggests that maybe he originally did have a bigger role in the game, but then obviously they made up for that in the anime.
I guess it also led, like we said earlier at the top of this show, that the anime team obviously had access to a lot of these materials to be able to make these tangents and make these characters up and bring them to life.
Yeah.
So again, it just lends. I'd love to know. I'd love to get Jason DeMarco back on the show. But like, what did you actually see?
Yeah.
What materials were you given? Because I guarantee you, some of this stuff they must have been given because it all just adds up. It's too obvious here.
No, I agree, because when you think about when we first saw this guy in the anime and he kept popping up and he did seem like one of the major sort of bad guy people in those couple of episodes of the anime, it felt like, oh, why have they given this guy who doesn't really show up in the game too much? He's quite a forgettable character. Why have they given him more of a presence? But we're looking at the design materials and, you know, somewhat makes sense that maybe that's why, because you know, like you said, Stu, maybe he did originally serve a bigger role.
It's really good. I like actually on this render as well, they've obviously taken some time to sort of get his face model working, because there's all sorts of different expressions there. It's quite detailed, isn't it, for a character that obviously didn't play sort of a particularly big role. We're coming down now into sort of the others section here. So there's probably not a huge amount of information known about some of these, but again, there's one or two that we'll pop in and have a look at.
We don't really know what chapter they're from. They could be from a previous chapter, just uncategorized sort of characters. Could be future characters even that we just don't know.
No, we just don't know at this point. So first off, we've got a Chinese mother 3D model render with a turquoise sleeveless dress and a black belt. She's got original model as a hostess, HOS, also referred to as Chinese mother CHW. Model for modification, modeling, new texture creation application. Took about 12 hours to make, apparently. Created by Takashi Ito. Also in others, we've got a Novu Rich Husband 3D model render, guy in a very swanky looking suit with a 3D model render and face render, quite detailed render as well here, with the green suit. He's got the model number MUK. A face is a high polygon model for reference, 1200 polygon model for in-game use, created by Takashi Ito. Now, initially when we saw this description, we thought the couple in Shenmue 3.
Yeah.
But Stu, that doesn't seem to be the case.
No. So I'll admit this is mainly based on the clothing more than anything else. But what I did notice is, so obviously we've got these chapter cards that were first revealed at the was it the GDC conference? Is that what it was called? Yeah. And the one for chapter 3 obviously shows sort of at some point Ryo and Ren were meant to go on this train, and there was like a whole bunch of other characters, and it's not really clear if this chapter's been scrapped completely at this point or whether it might be moved somewhere else. But yeah, amongst those other characters, there is a couple, like a husband and a wife, and the husband does very much seem to be wearing the same clothes and looks quite similar to this
spot
guy.
That was, I thought.
Yeah, brilliant spot.
I feel like I can't remember who it was, but I feel like someone on the Discord sort of suggested that this couple might have originally been like the original idea of like the nouveau riche couple before they sort of repurposed it for Shenmue 3. I'll have to sort of track down who said that originally, but yeah, as soon as I saw like that model and what the guy was wearing, I thought, I'm sure that looks like one of the people on that chapter tile. And then had a look, and the clothing at least seems to be an exact match. So interesting.
Good spot.
So that's a brilliant spot there for a character that would otherwise probably sort of not really be given much attention, I guess, is the word I would use here. So that's a brilliant spot there. Then we've got an unknown character head illustration of a guy with sort of a mullet type hair and glasses, thin black beard, round glasses, sharp angular face with a serious expression. This was spotted by Vivi Gamer, actually. It appears to be resemble character artwork that was found inside the Pix and Love edition, the Art of Shenmue 3 art book, as shown in the image below here, which is very, very interesting that this guy seems to have had
this one here.
There we go. Stu's got it in his hand there. So interesting that this character sort of made a random appearance out of nowhere.
Yeah. So what were the original intentions? Was meant to show up in Shenmue 3 somewhere?
Wow.
Or was it by your character, perhaps?
We just don't know, do we? I don't know how far in the book it is. I'd have to dig it out while Stu's.
I'm just having a look. Yeah.
But again, this is.
Oh, there we go.
Very. Yeah, there it is. Look, so you can see it plain as day. Look, how interesting! How interesting that's in there.
That was a good spot as well, to be honest.
Yeah, really good spot
Vivi.
by Vivi.
Yeah, brilliant.
Page 65, by the way.
Okay.
Brilliant. And then we're coming on to I guess like one of the final ones we've got. Liu Shengugu is one that we covered in the Shenmue 4 show that we did a while ago, James. I won't go through all of the details here, but we wanted to talk about this again because there's a couple of corrections we wanted to make.
Yeah, so previously, because his appearance location said hacker, and I just assumed that meant Bailu, because Bailu in Japanese is Hakasan.
Yeah.
Actually, Switch then pointed out that the actual Chinese characters, like the kanji characters, differ actually. So hacker is an unusual name for a chapter, but it refers to the actual hacker people. So there's like a sort of like a Chinese, I don't know if it's a religious group or whatever, but it's just a type of people called hacker. Like you've got like the Miao people from like the Miao village that we were going to go to in Shenmue 2. There's like these different types of people, I guess, or tribes or whatever. So it says, while Bailu village is pronounced Hakkasan in Japanese, the kanji used is different. So you can actually see here the differences on this page. So the one for Bailu, which means white deer, is like the character for white, and then I guess deer. Whereas the hacker that this kanji uses in the actual character order sheet refers to the hacker people. So Switch said to me that given the chapter order 422, maybe it's possible that that then refers to a character from a subsection of chapter 4. So perhaps hacker was originally intended to be an area in chapter 4. So that is, if you're going off like that 4 dash something, could potentially mean the chapter, although it's been a bit hit and miss throughout this episode, granted, so I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah.
But just a little bit more information on the hacker people. So they're known to live in those Tulu buildings, which then, suggests that region that was cut from Shenmue 3 that was going to be in Baisha, where we've seen Yu Suzuki pictured outside the Tulu buildings, quite fond of them, spoken about them. We saw early footage of him pointing on a screen where there was like a Tulu building. So originally, this could have been a character, maybe then potentially, rather than in Bailu Village as a martial arts master, maybe this is a character we're looking at here that could have been cut now, could have existed in Baisha. So it says, according to the original VF RPG artwork, Chapter 4 is depicted as taking place in Shanghai. So it doesn't quite align with later materials, however, because in the series of blue scripts that Yu Suzuki shown off, and me and Switch actually held at Wisenet, the Chapter 4 book was referred to as Guilin originally. So this makes more sense, because obviously the entirety of Shenmue 3 is set in Guilin, specifically Bailu and Niaowu. And since Baisha was meant to then follow Niaowu, it's kind of reasonable to think that it was considered to be part of the Guilin region, potentially, in this original plan. Right. So just a little bit of added information there. Again, we don't know for sure, but all that we do know for sure is that that hacker, the chapter hacker, doesn't mean Bailu, it means the personnel, I guess.
Carries a lot of different change in emphasis, doesn't it? Big time here, which obviously I'm glad that this was picked up and we could obviously correct that. And actually it's taken us down a very different rabbit hole with Baisha, the Tulu, and the planning that's gone on to that.
Yeah. Like you look at this character artwork now, and instead of picturing him in Bailu Village and then they've cut him or they've repurposed him, now you're picturing him inside or surrounding like a big one of those Tulu buildings, as a character that Rio would have encountered in Baisha, maybe.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I think that's again brilliant, and maybe we'll come back in a Shenmue 4. We'll just have to see, won't we? And then we've got the description below. You've got the head render. And then
that'd be a crazy moment, right? Playing Shenmue 4 and we're like, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago.
And then you've got the 3D model render. I'm hoping it doesn't take that bloody long. Although a game that's now one of the most influential games ever. You might think somebody might go, do you know what? Fancy getting things finished.
A bit of that, yep.
But we'll leave that there. That brings us to the end of the NPCs. There was a lot of NPCs that we went through there, but hopefully
that is the biggest gallery, to be honest.
It's the biggest gallery by some way here. But again, thank you for sticking with us, and thank you, Stu, for coming up with all those notes and all that insight to some of those characters that, frankly, I think would have been missed had you not done it. So thank you very much for that insight.
No problem.
We do have, before the end of the show, we have a competition. So for those of you who stuck around as long as this, we are giving away a Shenhua artwork, an original one from the auction that we won here. All you need to do is leave a comment in the YouTube description below. The comment shall be titled NPC.
Ooh, okay, so if we see NPC in your comment at all, we'll add you to the Wheel of Names for the third and final part that we're going to be recording in a few weeks' time. We'll reveal the winner then, I guess.
Right, I'm going to bring us to the end of the show, and thank you for sticking with us. We're probably hitting the 2.5 hour mark at this point in time, so thank you for sticking with us. But I will start doing the plugs and everything. But first and foremost, Stu, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find my blog on shenmusings.wordpress.com. As I say, I will have a post coming up going a bit deeper into the whole thing about Wong's mother and some quite interesting theories there. On Twitter, Shenmusings, and on Blue Sky, Shenmusings.
Brilliant. There we go. And for us over at shenmuedojo.com, you can find us on all the usual places. That's Facebook, Shenmue Dojo, Twitter or X, which we still are on at the moment, but we'll see how that lasts with what's going on over there at the moment. Shenmue_Dojo, Blue Sky, shenmuedojo.com, YouTube, Shenmue Dojo VOD, Twitch, Shenmue Dojo, Instagram, Shenmue_Dojo, Threads, Shenmue Dojo. You can see where this is going by now. We're pretty much on every social media platform that you can find us on. We also have a Discord server if you want to join in on sort of live in the moment chats on there. You also have the forums, shenmuedojo.com/forums, if you want a longer form discussion on there as well. Right, guys, on that note, I'm going to say thank you again to Stu for joining us and all that great detail in there. It's added a lot to the discussion around these NPCs. Some we knew, some we didn't, and some that may never see the light of day. We just don't know. James, as always, thank you for joining and accompanying me on this very long journey through the Shenmue artwork NPCs. This is part 2 of a 3-parter, which James and I are going to finish recording at some point in the very near future as well. But for now, guys, it's a goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
Brilliant, guys. Take it easy, and we'll see you soon. All the best.
Look at the time.